great to be in your company, and I look forward to navigating the day's top stories with you over the next 3 hours. Here's some of what you can have in store.
Yeah, so Olwethu Khanyile joining me in studio. You'll be hearing a bit more from her, including her introducing herself a bit later on and participating in presenting the show to you this morning. But here's what's coming up on the show. The former MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu may or may not form a new political party, and that largely depends on what the answer to the question whether or not South Africa needs a new political party, what that answer looks like coming from you. Shivambu has opened up about what he says are the real reasons for the recent demotion, for his recent demotion from the politically powerful post in the Jacob Zuma-led party. And it's all political machinations and intrigue, from fake intelligence reports that he alleges were circulating to allegations of corruption and even witchcraft. Fed up he is, but resign from the MK party? Well, that he says he won't be doing. We'll give you full analysis of Shivambu's next move and its implications for the political landscape, and that conversation and analysis coming up at the top of 7 a.m. in the second hour of the show. To this, concern grows for potential radiation fallout as Israel intensifies its bombing campaign against Iran's nuclear infrastructure, targeting key sites like Natanz and the heavily fortified Fordo enrichment facility. These attacks have raised international alarm, particularly from the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is warning of the growing risk of environmental contamination and regional instability. The stakes are high, and I don't think we need to tell you that, especially with Fordo being buried deep inside a mountain, requiring advanced, what is known as bunker-busting weaponry, only possessed by the United States. So what are the real risks of attacking such a facility, and how might it impact both the region and global security? We'll have a conversation with a nuclear physicist. The renowned Dr. Kelvin Kem will come through and help us understand what the risks are that are involved in this particular process. And that conversation coming up at about 7:20. And then we'll tell you about this at about 10 to 8. We'll be talking about the ban that has been in place around chicken imports coming through from Brazil. That ban that was based on the outbreak of avian influenza in the state of Rio Grande do Sul has now been partially lifted. So we'll delve deeper into what the implications are. Remember, when we spoke about this a few days ago, we talked about how it had implications for food affordability, particularly for low-income earners who depend on chicken as the main source of protein. So we'll talk about that with Imamaleng Mutebe, who is the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters.
As always, we have your regular and essential updates lined up for you. With Anne Musa with your hourly and half-hourly news updates, Rob Bryan keeping up a track of the traffic, Zain Kane as the sports desk, Melissa Buta has the morning brief shortly, Nontulenga Lichanla with your business and market updates, and Sipho Mantu with your Africa update around the hour of 6:40.
Yeah. And as always, you can keep in touch with us. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. On WhatsApp, you can send us a voice note on 061 410 4107. Our social media details are: we are at SAFM Radio on X, we are SAFM Radio on Facebook and Instagram, and as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, and that is SAFM Radio. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get the Friday edition of the Morning Brief started.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
A stage awaits, not for applause, but for possibility. For over 40 years, Standard Bank has championed the arts, and at the National Arts Festival, we don't just watch talent rise, we help grow it. Through our Standard Bank Young Artist Winners, raw voices find power, unseen stories take the spotlight, and what begins as a dream grows into a legacy. Join us in Makanda for the festival. Standard Bank, proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Nelson Mandela once said, "There can be no greater gift than that of giving one's time and energy to helping others without expecting anything in return."
What's your Mandela Day game plan this year? Why not lace up those sneakers and hit the ground running at our annual Mandela Day Walk and Run on July 19th at the DP World Wanderers Stadium, Ilovo. You can walk 5Ks, run 10 and 21Ks, and still have enough energy to have fun. It's a whirlwind of fun and laughter, all for a fantastic cause. Every cent goes to support the excellent work of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Enter on mandeladay.com or register for the virtual race on fundnation.org/Nelson Mandela. See you there.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, so let's start this morning's briefing session with the Morning Brief in brief with Melissa Puta. Melissa, good morning. Talk to me about law enforcement, and I think there's a theme in what you are updating us about this morning. Let's start with what the situation is as far as the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID. These are the police who police the police.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Yes, IPID is facing a backlog of over 14,000 cases, sparking concern from the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Police. The committee warned that the backlog undermines IPID's ability to hold police accountable and called for urgent strategies to address the issue. While additional funding of over 100 million has been welcomed, the committee cautioned that without tackling internal challenges and the high investigator workload, the problem will persist. IPID plans to roll out a digital case management system, which the committee supports, but has stressed that it needs to be properly implemented. Concerns were also raised about the police's poor response to IPID recommendations. Meanwhile, the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority plans to digitize services and expand its reach. Efforts that the committee has welcomed.
Yeah, and migration is a hot button issue in this country and has been for quite some time. So we have the Border Management Authority, but there are issues there as well.
Yes, so the Parliament's Home Affairs Committee has raised concerns over the severe underfunding of the Border Management Authority, which receives only 30% of its requested budget. This is hampering border security, anti-corruption efforts, and the rollout of critical cybersecurity measures. Staff vetting and lifestyle audits remain largely unfunded, raising integrity concerns. Plans to expand border guard numbers and digitize operations are also being stalled. The committee urged urgent action and better resourcing while praising the department's counter-corruption unit for its impact despite the financial constraints that they are facing.
And then let's talk about policing in Gauteng. Tell me what the concerns are in the province about police capacity.
So once again, this is in the spotlight. Concerns have been raised over Gauteng's police capacity, as only 710 out of over 5,000 police vehicles are currently out of service, severely impacting crime-fighting efforts in the province. Several stations are operating with over 20% of their fleet grounded while covering densely populated areas. Annandale, which has one of the highest crime rates in the province, has 31% of its fleet idle. Premier Panyaza Lesusi attributed the delays to a shortage of mechanics, while the DA warned that the situation is emboldening criminals. The most affected divisions our crime prevention, detectives, and support services. Despite some stations managing to redistribute resources, the demand far outweighs capacity in areas like Ivory Park, Alexandra, which population densities are extremely high. So this is one that is quite a cause for concern.
All right, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta there with the morning brief in brief, just adding a bit more color and detail on some of the stories that we may not necessarily get the time to get through in the next 3 hours there.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
At 18 minutes after 6, let's get you started with your weather and tell you what conditions you can expect for this Friday. It's mostly fine conditions, but I do have 2 warnings for you that have come through from the South African Weather Service. The first one is a yellow level 2 warning. It says damaging waves resulting in difficulty in navigation, small vessels at risk of taking on water and capsizing within locality, and localized disruption to ports or harbors. Those conditions are expected between Saldanha Bay and East London until Saturday morning. The second one, yellow level 2 warning, damaging winds resulting in localized damage to formal and informal settlements over the Kouga and Nelson Mandela Bay local municipalities, as well as offshore between Plettenberg Bay and East London, resulting in difficulty in navigation. As I said, the rest of your weather is largely fine. So let me give you the temperatures then. Pretoria is a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 23. Johannesburg, 6 to 22. Mbombela, 9 to 25. Polokwane, 8 to 24. Mahikeng, 3 to 24. Bloemfontein, 0 to 19. Kimberley, 1 to 17. Uppington, 4 to 18. The weather in Cape Town is cloudy with scattered light showers and rain with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 15. George will be fine, becoming cloudy with a chance of light afternoon rain with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 17. Gqeberha will be fine, becoming cloudy in the afternoon with isolated light showers and rain with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 20. East London will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 20. Durban will be partly cloudy until mid-morning. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 23. Richards Bay will be fine with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 26. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 23.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Let's talk women's soccer now. Banyana will hopefully be able to defend their title at WAFCON, which takes place in Morocco from the 5th to the 26th of July. We're joined on the line now by Idiski Times football journalist Letabo Khanyago. Little mini group in the Tri-Nations tournament, so very, very good build-up, I would suggest, for WAFCON. What do you think Coach Des would have learned from this tournament?
So I think for Coach Des, in these matches, we saw some, new faces, not new faces, some faces that we haven't seen in a long time return, come back to the national team. You want to see if everyone is gelling, the players that have just finished their seasons abroad as well, coming back home. And also, now that our league is back and it's playing fluidity and everything, you just want to test that. And also, I think the other thing I observed was, some of the combinations she had been trying, playing some players in different positions. You could see in the first match against Botswana where Gedi Salgado was playing as well.
Top Sport on SAFM.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
It's coming up to 22 minutes after 6. Israel and Iran have continued wave after wave of attacks on each other's military and civilian installations. Iranian missiles have hit a major hospital in southern Israel and struck residential buildings in Tel Aviv, wounding 240 people and causing extensive damage. At the same time, Israel appears to have put the possible assassination of the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei back on the table, with Tel Aviv's Defense Minister Israel Katz quoted as saying the military, quote, has been instructed and knows that in order to achieve all its goals, this man absolutely should not continue to exist, end quote. So let's take the conversation forward. I'm joined by Roland Henwood, political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time once again, Roland. There's been a bit of concentration on the question of whether or not the United States may join in the campaign, particularly around the campaign around Iran's nuclear facilities, which Israel has been bombing. But there's been this issue about whether or not it is having any impact in terms of decommissioning those nuclear sites. But we see now that the missiles being launched from Iran continue as well, and they've been hitting, a number of installations inside Israel. Where does that leave this particular conflict?
Well, at this stage, it seems like a sort of a status quo in the sense that both sides are continuing with these strikes. How effective these are and for what time it's going to continue, the duration of this, is of course a matter of logistics, and that will be determined by what is available and also the ability to continue launching missiles. Missiles is not something that is easy to move around and launch very quickly. You need the equipment, you need the setup, etc. So it's a very effective weapon, it's a very powerful weapon, but it is one that is not as easy to use as, for instance, firing a gun or a missile from an aircraft. It's a different ballgame if you look at the kind of missiles that Iran has been using. So the question now, what capacity do they have left in terms of the numbers, and then also the capacity to move this and get it launched. On the Israeli side, it's also a question of logistics, but it's very different. The ability of the Israeli Air Force to fly into Iran to very specifically target what they want to look at and what they want to destroy seems to be uncontested at this stage. And that creates a very different balance of power in a sense. And they seem to be quite effective in destroying missile capability. So that is going to continue until the one or the other side runs out of the kind of munitions or the freedom to operate. And of course, that may be influenced by, we see 2 sessions of negotiations planned in the next 2 days. So that is another dynamic that is coming into play, despite the argument, the fact that it is contested in the sense that the Iranians said they have not asked to negotiate, but there seems to be a delegation meeting with European leaders and the US on the sidelines at least today, and there will be another round of meetings over the weekend. So there's definitely the diplomatic track is also ongoing in this. The question is how much traction will that get and who will be involved. For instance, will Israel be satisfied with what happens in that sense, or will they unilaterally continue as they've done when they started this conflict?
Is there a sense that you're getting, Roland, that there's no turning back on the question of the nuclear capacity in Iran, that the conversation has moved from containment of the nuclear ambitions to a complete destruction by Israel with the backing of the United States? Or is there still a path that can be carved out from those negotiations that you allude to that has Iran maintaining a certain level of nuclear of a nuclear program, but that is closely watched and is contained?
Well, I think the main question here is going to be what is possible after the destruction, because getting this sorted and back on track is going to cost a lot of money. So obviously that is going to have an impact. Both countries will pay a heavy price in terms of the cost of war, the consequences of war, and the impact it has on economic activity. So that is going to be one of the key issues. Is it still viable, and does it make sense to have to go and back and spend a lot of money again? Because nuclear programs are extremely expensive. Even if it is for peaceful use, it is extremely expensive. So given the destruction and the damage, that may not be attainable. That's the one level. The next level is the question you raise. To what extent will anyone accept a nuclear program in Iran in future? given the information that is available, and although the Iranians reject this, the International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed that Iran has gone way beyond what is accepted in terms of the AEA and the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So there's reason to be concerned about what has happened. And the debate now has moved, at least in terms of the information out there, that Iran and the position of a country such as the US, which also owns nuclear weapons, by the way, we all know that, that Iran should not own nuclear weapons because it cannot be trusted to use these or to manage these in a responsible way. Now, that's, of course, a different debate, but that's what's the issues are informing this debate.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Roland Henwood, who is a political scientist and commentator at the University of Pretoria.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's a very good morning. Let's start with South Africa's ICC World Test Championship hero, Aiden Markram. He's opening up about what he's called a career-defining century at Lord's. After a duck in the first innings, Markram bounced back with a sensational 136 against Australia, helping seal the Proteas' first World Test Championship title. The opener, once dubbed the next Graham Smith, now sits with 8 Test centuries. And of course, he arrived to a hero's welcome together with the team at OR Tambo this week, as fans and pundits still celebrating this historic win for SA Cricket.
I came here to celebrate the champions of South Africa, the cricket guys. And I'm here for KG. Love you, KG.
I've been following the Proteas since the time I was born, thanks to my dad. It's run in my family, cricket's run in my family. So to see us finally lift something was this feeling of elation, and I can't explain the feeling in words.
I'm here to support our boys and show them the love that they deserve. They did really well, and yeah, just really proud of them.
It means so much to me that we've won this tournament. It really does. It's especially after the World Cup final loss, was it 2 years ago? The heartbreak that we felt. This I think has put a bandage on our hearts, really.
Soccer action. Palmeiras defeated Jose Rivero's Al Ahly 2-0 in round 2 of the Club World Cup, with Botafogo stunning the Champions League winner Paris Saint-Germain 1-0. And after suffering a heavy 4-0 defeat against Paris Saint-Germain in their opener, Atletico Madrid bounced back with a 3-1 victory over Seattle Sounders. Inter Miami, they secured a historic victory, and that's for American soccer. In the second round of Group A, they had a 2-1 win over Porto. And finally, athletics news. The Athletics South Africa president, James Molloy, has welcomed the forensic investigation initiated by the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gator McKenzie, into allegations of irregular credit card spending. This comes after ASA appeared before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, and that was where concerns were raised regarding Molloy's use of the Federation's credit card between December and January 2023. Now, McKenzie said that he would immediately launch an investigation. Molloy, however, maintains he has nothing to hide, claiming the funds were used to entertain clients in accordance with ASA's policy. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Electricity Minister Hossein Suramakgopa says the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan brings a holistic approach on energy development in the country. He was speaking during a roundtable discussion on energy transition in South Africa and Africa at the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has emphasized the need to prioritize the public funding of political parties. Godongwana was speaking at the IEC Political Funding Symposium in Durban that reflected on the successes and challenges following the implementation of the Political Party Funding Act 4 years ago. And a report by the United Nations has revealed violence against children in conflict zones has reached unprecedented levels. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just an update on Van Rieren's. The Durban-bound carriageway currently obstructed. A couple of trucks involved in a crash there. There's quite a heavy backlog of traffic waiting to be able to get past. So if you're on your way down from sort of Free State territory, maybe pull over to services somewhere, Harry Smith, Swinburne, and just sit it out for a while. Otherwise, if you get through to Van Rieren's, past the Van Rienen village, then you'll be joining an ever-growing backlog of traffic on your way to Durban. We start down in Durban with today's first of the breakdowns on the N2 South between Umgedi and Spaghetti Junction in the roadwork, so that's popping a traffic queue up very quickly. It's amazing, those breakdowns, just how many of them break down because they're simply out of fuel. The M7 going into Pinetown, just starting to build again from the North Dean North Park area. Obviously, the Stapleton Road closure has an impact on that traffic flow into Durban these days. And Joburg, the N3, under pressure from Germiston and Alberton. It's a crash at Van Buren Road, so traffic already backed into and beyond Elands Interchange. Cape Town, the N2 inbound, slow passing Khayelitsha down towards the airport runway area. And Baden-Powell was a nightmare yesterday getting out of Muizenberg towards Mitchell's Plain. It's building pretty heavily this morning. Baden-Powell all queued up into the Strandfontein Road junction as you head towards Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Morning, Daolin Lichena. Please tell us about the People's Bank of China leaves rates unchanged.
Morning, Olwethu. So it's been a big week for central bankers, with many delivering monetary policy moves, the latest one being the People's Bank of China. And they've decided to keep their benchmark lending rates unchanged, with the one-year loan prime rate remaining at 3% and the 5-year rate staying at 3.5%. Now, this decision follows significant monetary easing measures implemented last month to support the economy amid trade tensions with the U.S. The recent trade agreement between Washington and Beijing has eased some growth concerns, reducing the immediate need for further rate cuts. But economists predict that China may still need to provide additional policy support later in the year to maintain economic growth. Now, Chinese policymakers in the meantime appear satisfied with the current monetary policy stance, focusing on alternative measures to stimulate growth rather than relying solely on interest rate cuts. In addition to that, the PBOC says it's exploring ways to promote the international use of the digital yuan and advocating for more diverse global currency systems. This approach, it says, reflects a broader strategy to support economic growth and boost China's position in the global financial landscape.
And the Airbus secures plane orders worth $21 billion.
Now, this comes as one of the world's biggest air shows comes to an end. There's been updates from big players in that sector, Airbus and Boeing. And starting with Airbus, the European aircraft maker has secured $21 billion in new aircraft orders at the 2025 Paris Air Show, really solidifying its lead over its rival Boeing. In the meantime, Boeing has taken a low profile due to ongoing challenges and crises, including the recent Air India crash. Despite this, industry demand remains strong, with both players having massive backlogs of over 8,000 and 5,000 aircrafts respectively. And industry experts seem to believe Boeing will rebound once the crash investigation is resolved, pending no long-term damage to its reputation. Back onto those orders, Airbus got 132 firm orders from various customers, while Boeing only secured 41 orders. Interestingly, the Paris Air Show highlighted the contrasting strategies of Airbus and Boeing, with Airbus focusing on strengthening ties in emerging markets and Boeing prioritizing recovery and reputation management.
And how are the markets looking at this hour?
So we had a slow day in markets overnight as U.S. stocks were closed on account of the Juneteenth holiday. Back at home, we saw focus on Middle East tensions, with the oil price hitting the $78 barrel mark again, but retracing those gains this morning. Now, the stronger oil price keeping the JSE's resources counter in the green, up 0.62% in yesterday's session. That, however, not enough to boost the overall bourse, with the all share shedding 0.08%. The rand making slight gains this morning. However, volatility remains trading at 18 to the dollar this hour. Then over in Asia, stocks staging a rebound, mostly in the green, with traders digesting big central bank moves, with the People's Bank of China, the Bank of England and Fed leaving rates unchanged.
Thank you for the business update.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Yeah, good morning to you. You're listening to SAFM 104 to 107. This is the morning brief on SAFM, and I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, as you know, but I am joined by Olwethu Khanyile, who is part of the SAFM Youth Takeover. So that is the voice that you keep hearing from time to time. In fact, in the next few minutes, I think what we will do is allow Olwethu to properly introduce herself so that you know the young person, the dynamic young person who is in studio with me this morning. But for now, let's give you your Africa update. Sipho Mantula, good morning. Let's start with the conflict in the Middle East, the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. There are implications for many African governments, aren't there, in terms of the people that work and study in that region?
Refreshing morning, Tulas, and Jammu Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Tulas, we are doing countdown of 7 days of this Operation Rising Lion of Israel against Iran, but it's affecting African students who are studying both in Israel and in Iran. So when we look this morning, there are almost 4 countries, Tulas, to more than 5 actually. We are looking at Ghana leading with some of its students to leave Israel and as well as Iran. And Ghana has pushed by even closing its embassy to us in Tehran, as well as evacuating some of their students. Here we are talking about 900 Ghanaians who are trapped in this conflict. Nigeria also, to us, is pushing to push their own students out of this conflict by leaving both Tehran and Tel Aviv. Uganda, 48 students are stranded in Iran, and the government is trying by all means to help them. Sudan also, North Sudan has also closed its embassy in Iran, urging their nationals to leave. And that's where we see Tulas, South Africa has been raising it. Mauritania also has been condemning this conflict. So we can see the impact of this conflict, how it affects the young people who are studying in the 2 countries.
Yeah, somehow it has echoes of the first few days of the Ukrainian conflict and that scramble to get as many African, people who were in Ukraine to exit as safely as possible. Closer to home, Sipho, tell me about, this is becoming a bit of a debacle, is it not? The repatriation of the mortal remains of the former Zambian president, Lungu.
Actually, one thought that there was a mediation effort by the former president, Paliki Mulusi, where I thought there was going to be the state funeral, but there's that standoff again. There was a delay also for the repatriation of the body of Edgar Lungu back to Zambia. And this has been the issue of the rivals between the current president and the former president. The family to us is still insisting on this issue that it's a state funeral without Hakainde, but the government will not relent. And that's where we find that this standoff, it is causing tensions also when one looks at how they've kept him for too long because of the issues that have happened before the 2 leaders to us. And that affects the family, it affects the people of SADC to honor and bid farewell to the former President Edgar Lungu if you have tensions with the state and the family.
Yeah, so his remains remain in South Africa. That repatriation has not happened because of this standoff.
It has not happened.
Sure.
Correct,
wow. Let's talk an issue of policy that, in a way, plays itself out in South African politics. Tell me about Western Sahara, Morocco, and how the position of the MK party features in that conversation.
There's a 17-page document that comes from MK that talks about strategic partnership for African unity, economic emancipation and territorial integrity, and Morocco being the case study. It's not loaded. As one can say, it is rehashed, but it is bringing the information of saying that probably the MK is aligning with Morocco over the sovereignty of Western Sahara on the basis that they are saying Morocco supported the Thulasizwe of the African National Congress in the late 60s, and the issue of the alliance between the two countries on trade must be looked into. So that's how, when you look at that policy document that has been brought into us, raising tensions, because the African National Congress have been on the issue of Western Sahara, and many African countries, they've been raising this occupation of Western Sahara by Morocco. But MK raising many issues, and you'll hear even Floyd yesterday spoke about some brown envelopes moving around it, which it was going to happen. But I think this is something that we have to debate about it thoroughly, about what then is the position of our country, our national interest. Because that document, it raises many issues, but it tends to forget that the occupation of Western Sahara has been raised at the UN and at the AU level for being unlawful and illegal.
Yeah. And then in South Sudan, a unique story there, Sipho. Tell me about the use of music and harnessing of the power of music in a conflict situation.
Thulas, I've said it before many times, the soft power of cultural diplomacy. The UN mission in the South Sudan and UNESCO is hosting a concert in Malakala in the Upper Nile, in the epicenter of the conflict, with one of my brothers I know very well, Ras Emmanuel Kembe, to highlight the power of music for peace in the South Sudan. And that's how Emmanuel Kembe has been pushing with Raskobi, trying to use the power of music. Because once you play music, whether you are a Dinka, you are a Nur, you are able to dance to the music and to the drum. That's how it is important. And the UN has seen that this will be one of the capable or great unifiers to build bridges between the two ethnic nations that are still in conflict in South Sudan. That's the power of, I'd say, Thulas, of cultural diplomacy beyond military interventions.
And lastly, Sipho, take us to your historical archive. You're going back to the 20th of June, 1988. What happened?
37 years ago, when the then apartheid government presented to promote constitutional development bill, which wanted to include the black voice. You recall that was the time of P.W. Botha's career, where he said that they will engage and they will release Nelson Mandela, they will lift the ban of the political parties in 1990, and we saw it 2 years later happening. But I think this was a critical moment when the apartheid government put this bill before Parliament, that they will definitely want to integrate and include this concept of one person, one vote, if you will remember it, Thulas. And both the late President de Klerk, F.W. de Klerk and Nelson Mandela, they met on this concept of one person, one vote, and it led to many talks that happened during that time, Thulas, that we will recall. Your Kodesa 1, Kodesa 2, World Trade Center. This was the origin when the apartheid government opted to have the bill before the then apartheid parliament. Asante sana, Thulas, as we're still in a conversation, SAFM observing the Soweto uprising month.
Sipho, thank you for that, and have yourself a fantastic weekend. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update for this morning.
Can one word unlock eternal glory? Okay, maybe just a shiny trophy and bragging rights. It's Password US, hosted by the king of chaos himself, Jimmy Fallon. Celebrities try to guess words. Hilarity ensues. Logic? Optional. Laughter guaranteed. Password US, where saying the right word might win the game, but saying the wrong one is way more fun. Password US, Saturdays 7:30 on S3. Say it like you mean it, or don't. We're not judging.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After league and cup triumphs for Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns, George Maluleka, Lethono Majoro and George Lebesi embark on a journey to conquer the glamorous world of cosmetics. Join us as we find out how they maneuver through this highly competitive industry. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 21 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made in the lives of others. These words by Nelson Mandela inspire us at Habitat for Humanity. With the help of various partners, including volunteers, corporates, communities, and government, we have built homes with more than 650 vulnerable families in South Africa, giving them hope and new beginnings. You too can make a difference. Partner today with habitat.org.za and join us in building a South Africa where everybody has an adequate place to live in. Together, we can change lives. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
It's coming up to 13 minutes to 7. You're listening to the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm with Olwethu Khanyile this morning, part of the SAFM Youth Takeover. Let's get into this story. A new petition has been launched calling for major food retailers to heed the moral needs of their customers by dropping food prices, or for government to intervene and regulate food prices. The campaign is driven by United Against Hunger, who are aiming to collect up to 100,000 signatures in support of this cause. It's also backed by a door-to-door campaign in which UAH activists and affiliates will be visiting homes to collect signatures. So let's speak to Mark Haywood, the South African human rights and social justice activist who also heads up this United Against Hunger. Mark, good morning. I am joined by Olwethu Khanyile, one of the dynamic young people who are participating in the SAFM Youth Takeover, and the next voice you'll be hearing will be hers.
Morning,
good morning,
Mark.
Olwethu, and good morning, Thulas. Morning, Olwethu. Morning.
Hope you're having a wonderful morning. So are South Africans finding it harder to put food on their tables? And what sacrifices are they making to cope with this rising cost of groceries?
The simple answer to that is yes. The figures tell us that about 20 million South Africans are food insecure. They experience hunger either every day or perhaps towards the end of the month. And the consequences of that food insecurity are very serious, particularly for children. Olwethu, again, statistics tell us that a shocking 29% of children, that's 1 in every 3 children, by the time they are 5, are stunted, meaning that they haven't had enough nutrition in those critical early years of their lives. So yes, we have a big food, well, no, we don't have a food problem, Olwethu, because we produce enough food to feed everybody in this country, but we do have a big hunger problem.
Wow, that is quite sad. And how will this petition assist with getting government and retailers to intervene in bringing food prices down?
Well, one of the reasons people, there are a number of reasons why people don't have enough food, but one of the reasons, a big reason, is that food prices are just too high. That companies like ShopRite, like Boxer, instead of treating food as a human right and doing everything that they can to keep prices down, are treating it as something that they can make profits from and constantly putting prices of foods up. And we're saying that because food is in our constitution says everyone in the country has a right to sufficient food. So we're saying that food should be treated a bit like we already treat things like medicines, which is that if the market is failing, if we are seeing bad conduct by private retailers, then the government should intervene to control prices, to make it possible for poor people to afford not just food, but to afford nutritious and good food. And that's what this petition is about.
Sure. So do you think the government and big retailers are doing enough, or they're just turning a blind eye while families suffer? And in addition to this question, if you met the Minister of Trade and the CEO of one of the biggest retailers, basically, what would you say to them about prices and just the basic prices of like bread, milk, and maize meal?
Well, let me take the last part of your question. If I was to meet the CEO of ShopRite, who earns about 80 million rand a year, whilst people are literally starving, then I would appeal to him to find his conscience to look to his morals and say, my company has other ways of making money, but one way that I will not make excessive profits is from foodstuffs. And I think that would be a wonderful signal to the country that these companies are committed to the country and that they are committed to the people of the country. But I would say to the ministers that if these bosses won't do that, then they have to act. It's not a choice. The Constitution dictates certain actions to the government to protect the population. And one of the things that they have to do is protect us from hunger, because the effects of hunger are not just short-term pain and indignity and suffering. For children, they are long-lasting. They carry for generations in terms of reduced cognitive ability, smaller physical size, and so on. So we're looking at a generational crisis, Oluwethu.
Thanks. That was Mark Haywood, South African human rights and social justice activist.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on the run from Germiston and Alberton this morning up the N3, heading towards Gululis. It's a crash scene before you get to Van Buren Road, which has got that traffic backlog pretty substantially. Roadworks on the R21 already cutting in and causing delays on the run between Pretoria and the airport. All the construction around the Bupsfontein road exit. So southbound towards the airport, there's queuing pressure, and northbound on your way towards Pretoria, the pressure even heavier. A little bit of traffic on the N1 around Allendale this morning, heading into Buccleuch interchange. So I'll keep an eye on that one for you. Van Rynen's Pass currently blocked by a truck crash just near Pyramids Hotel, so south of Van Rynen's Village. There's a really big backlog of traffic waiting to get through that particular scene. Durban, a breakdown N2 south before Spaghetti Junction. Traffic parking back already to Inanda Road, and the M7, of course, going into Pinetown. Super heavy again, with traffic diverting away from the Stapleton Road closure. Cape Town, crash outbound on Wynberg Hill. That's on the M3, heading down towards Tokai and Muizenberg. You may find yourself being taken off the M3 at Travato Link and just diverted onto alternative routes. It's having an impact on the M3 inbound this morning as well, with queues coming up from Constantia into that scene. And a collision involving a taxi on the N2 inbound at the R300, slowing traffic passing Khayelitsha, with the queue currently back as far as Spine Road. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
It's coming up to 6 minutes to 7. Debate continues to rage over the need for and the purpose to be served by the National Dialogue process, whose details President Cyril Ramaphosa announced recently. The presidency is championing the National Dialogue as a people-led, society-wide process to reflect on the state of our country and reimagine its future, develop a shared vision of what it means to be a South African, and a new national ethos and common value system. But the process has had no shortage of critics, with some suggesting that the process will not reveal anything new, because what ails our society, as well as the required antidote for our ills, are already well researched and known by all, including government, and the dialogue may just be a distraction from government. So let's speak to Duma Qubule, economist and research associate at the Social Policy Initiative. Good morning to you, Duma, and thank you for your time. I read with interest your concurrence to the views expressed by Malaika Mahlatsi, where she argues that President Ramaphosa, and I quote here, wants to keep South Africa in an endless cycle of dialogue to distract us from the fact that the government is failing to facilitate the radical reform that is needed to redress the injustices of the country's amoral past. Why do you agree with that sentiment?
Okay, let us start. Thulasizwe, 2 days after President Ramaphosa he becomes president, on 16th February 2018, he says this year we'll be initiating measures to set the country on a new path of growth, employment, and transformation. We'll do this by getting social partners in our country to collaborate in building a social compact on which we will create the drivers of economic growth. 7 years later, we don't have a social compact. In 2022, in the State of the Nation address, he said we're going to have a comprehensive social compact in 100 days. Nothing has happened. President Thabo Mbeki complained at Jesse Duarte's memorial in July 2022. He says there is no national plan to address these challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. It does not exist. So, Thulasizwe, you've been president for 7 years. You haven't developed a plan to grow the economy, a vision and plan for this economy. And on top of that, the government has blue-ticked the National Development Plan, which had macroeconomic targets to address unemployment, poverty, and equality. And so why should we as South Africans believe anything that comes from the president? And then if you look at the composition of that eminent panel's group and the framing of the the announcement by the president, it looks like he wants to depoliticize this whole thing. And then the final thing I want to say is that if we look at the past 30 years, we have to look at the past 30 years. This presidency has been the worst by far. 0.5% annual average GDP growth. Under Jacob Zuma, it was 4 times higher at 1.9%. And under President Mbeki, it was 8 times higher at 4% a year. And under it was under Madiba, it was also much higher. So this is a complete, it has been 7 wasted years. And I understand South Africans, when they're heartful, they don't want to have another dialogue to discuss what we already know and pay lots of money for something that we already know. We have to address unemployment, poverty, and inequality. But what do we have now? We have a Minister of Labor who's, denying that there's an unemployment problem. We have Parkstow agreeing with the Gerinel and his fake 10% unemployment figure. We've got a government that is just completely clueless about the challenges facing our country. So there's 2 scenarios that could happen. We could spend 700 million and then it's going to go over budget like the Zondo Commission, and we're spending R1 billion, and it's going to take 3 years for us to talk to each other, and the crisis is getting worse. And then and then they ignore what the people say.
What about the argument, Duma, that says there's value, though, in reimagining our future and also reflecting on our shared vision and values, more than just, the technicalities of what do you do to address structural reforms in the economy, but rather who we are fundamentally as a society?
Yeah, there's value in that, but towards what objective? There's value of it. We must address the issues of the economy, issues of crime, issues of gender-based violence, and this administration promised to, fund this national strategic plan for gender-based violence. Not a cent has come out of this administration. And there's so many things, but the thing when Thulasizwe is that, yes, anything can come out of this process, but do we trust this government to do this? That is the core issue. We will say we want this X, Y, Z, but do we trust them to deliver on X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. So, all right. No, thank you for that. I suppose from your side, then, there are other ways to do this. Would those include undertaking the reforms we've been talking about in the economy and the transformation of the economy?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to make a point that, structural reform has been weaponized by this government. It's a code for privatization, liberalization, and deregulation of the economy and the state withdrawal from network industries, electricity, water, transport, and telecommunications. So I hate that term because that is not what we should be doing as a country, privatizing the jewels of this country. We should be, instead of we should be investing in the country, in our people, and in infrastructure. And Thulasizwe, I have looked at this country, cut and sliced the data for the past 30 years. There's only 2 things we need to do. We need to invest in our people and our infrastructure. Over the past 10 years, 2014 to 2024, real per capita public investment has collapsed by 40%. What logic is there in any sane government cutting public investment by 40% per capita?
Sure.
That is why our cities and towns throughout the country are filthy and dangerous slums. So the minute they stop those insane austerity policies and these sky-high interest rates and sky-high interest rates that are totally unnecessary, our country will grow. We need oxygen, to get the country growing again.
Right.
Yeah, it's so simple. Yeah.
All right. Duma, thank you for your time this morning. That's Duma Qubule. Strong words there coming through from him. He's an economist as well as research associate at the Social Policy Initiative. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Thanks to us. In our top stories, South African government ready for renewable energy plan, and UN report reveals a rise in violations against children in conflict zones. Good morning. Electricity Minister Thulasizwe Simelane says the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan brings a holistic approach on energy development in the country. South Africa has an abundance of renewable energy sources, including sunshine and wind. Fossil fuels like coal continue to be used but require technology to clean the smoke emitted to mitigate the effects of climate change. The minister was speaking during a roundtable discussion on energy transition in South Africa and Africa at the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town.
At the same time, we approach this transition with a pragmatic clarity. A reliable and secure energy future will rest on a balanced mix that includes clean coal technologies, flexible gas generation, and nuclear power, all integrated into a decarbonization pathway that is responsible, feasible, and nationally determined.
Finance Minister Ino Godongwana has emphasized the need to prioritize the public funding on political parties. Godongwana was speaking at the IEC Political Funding Symposium in Durban that reflected on the successes and challenges following the implementation of the Political Party Funding Act 4 years ago.
Political parties, by their very nature, are public institutions. And if you don't use taxpayers' money to fund them, then we are making them vulnerable to be hijacked by individuals or corporates.
Eastern Cape Police are investigating a case of murder following the fatal shooting of a senior official outside the Nelson Mandela Drive campus of the Walter Sisulu University at Umtata in the Eastern Cape. Police spokesperson Nobuntu Kantana says officers discovered the victim inside a stationary vehicle. She says the motive of the killing is not known at this stage.
Preliminary forensic analysis confirms the victim sustained multiple gunshot wounds while seated in the driver's position. The motive remains unknown. The identity of the deceased will be formally released once next of kin notification is complete, as per SAPS protocol. The active Provincial Commissioner of Eastern Cape, Major General Thandiswa Kupiso, stated that SAPS has mobilized maximum resources to pursue all leads. Public speculation must be avoided to preserve the integrity of the investigation.
Our reporter Nkululeko Nyembezi, who was at the scene shortly after the incident, says it has left university staff members traumatized.
Walter Sisulu University senior officials was ambushed on the road leading to his Nkululeko residence. It's not clear what is the motive behind this shooting. Walter Sisulu co-workers are also on the scene. They are shocked and traumatized. You remember that the university has been facing unrest ranging from student protests, legal battles, intervention from other stakeholders trying to reach an agreement between students and the management of the university.
And finally, a report by the United Nations has revealed violence against children in conflict zones has reached unprecedented levels. The report states that most of these took place in Palestinian territories, with the vast majority attributed to Israeli forces. The BBC's Andrew Ochieng has the details.
The UN Secretary-General's annual report on children and armed conflict says that the number of those who died or were injured in wars last year was staggering. More than 4,500 were killed and 7,000 others were wounded. Other violations included targeting schools and humanitarian aid intended for children. Violence against Palestinian children, mostly by Israeli soldiers, the report said, far exceeded that recorded in other conflict zones such as the Democratic Republic of Congo or Ukraine. The situation for children in Gaza was even worse than Haiti, where a coalition of criminal gangs has been blamed for a nearly 500% increase in violations, including child recruitment, murder and gang rapes.
Recapping the top story, Electricity Minister Thulasizwe Simelane says the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan brings a holistic approach on energy development in the country. He was speaking during a roundtable discussion on energy transition in South Africa and Africa at the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Here's some breaking news you might have missed. Gordon, a 44-year-old man, switched to Outsurance and now saves an unbelievable 2,794 Rand a month on his 2019 Ford Everest 2-litre automatic. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we're building up to Mamelodi Sundowns. They're taking on Borussia Dortmund next in the Club World Cup. And we have tennis action with the top seeds Yannick Sinner together with Coco Gauff out of their respective tournaments. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A couple of big delays around the country. One on the Joburg section of the N3 running north at the run into Galulis. It's a crash by Van Buren. Traffic all the way back into Elands Interchange. If you're coming from Germiston or Alberton up towards Bedfordshire this morning, it's a heavy backlog. Also, crash N1 south between Allendale and Buccleuch, so that's starting to queue up. And early morning delays on the R21 into the roadworks around Bupsfontein Road, both airport bound and Pretoria bound. Absolute solid through there. Durban breakdown into southbound before Spaghetti Junction, still there this morning. Traffic is heavy. It's all the way back almost to Queen Nundy Drive. That run into 4-level heavy. M7 from North Dean into Pinetown stays badly backed up with motorists diverting from the Stapleton Road closure. Still dealing with a truck crash on Van Riemen's Pass. There's quite a lengthy backlog on the Durban-bound carriageway. And Cape Town, a crash involving a taxi. N2 inbound at the R300. That's a heavy queue passing Khayelitsha. Also a crash on Wynberg Hill on your way out of Cape Town towards Constantia. That's having a slowdown, but it's having a big impact on the inbound side with the onlookers. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. It is great to be in your company on this Friday. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief. I am joined by Olwethu Khanyile. It's the SAFM Youth Takeover. You know, because I'm not going to live forever and I won't be sitting on this chair forever. Olwethu, how are you finding it this morning?
Oh, it started off a bit shaky, but I'm just getting used to it. Yeah,
Great.
It's an amazing experience so far.
So the people want to know a bit more about you. Who is Olwethu Khanyile? What do you do? You know, where do you come from? Where are your roots?
Olwethu Khanyile is currently a student at the University of Witwatersrand, and I'm doing my honors in applied development economics. I live at Vosloorus, and something interesting about me is that I play basketball for Wits, actually.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then. Tell me a bit more about the studies. Is that a passion of yours? Has it always been? And why is it a passion?
It is a passion of mine. It hasn't always been, but I think economics, just studying how a country operates and the challenges that we're having in the country and why we're having them at a macro level and a micro level is quite interesting. So I gained passion actually when I was doing my undergrad. I switched into economics, but I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when you were hearing the conversation we were having earlier on with Dumak Gobule, there was quite a lot for you to reflect upon.
I was nodding mostly to most of what he was saying.
Tell me just your broad thinking about, some of the best ideas about how to move the country forward in terms of our economy. We haven't had great growth for a better part of a decade and a half. Yeah,
I can just add on to the unemployment crisis that we have in this country. I feel like there's a world-renowned economist, Nobel Prize economist, Arthur Lewis, who studied economics and how we can actually grow this country using excess labor that we have. So there's a lot of people that are waiting to work in informal settlements, townships. So he's saying that invest in actually those people that are there. So we'll see the growth as people come into the formal sector and actually learn how to make more money than informal sector, like street vendors, just gaining the skills. So that will actually make our country grow, I believe.
2 quick questions before we start the show, the second hour of the show. How old are you? I think we didn't say.
I'm 23, turning 24 in
Great
July.
Stuff. Then the last one that people should know is that you are very brave. In your position, I would be sitting at my desk studying and putting in last-minute study. You have an exam coming up today.
I have an exam today at 9
writing?
o'clock. I'm writing advanced econometrics.
So there you have it. Always has an exam, advanced econometrics.
Yes.
At 9 o'clock, right at the end of the show. So we'll have to release her a bit earlier on, a bit early than we ordinarily would have. So that's the other voice you're hearing this morning. It's part of the SAFM Youth Takeover. All right, let's get started with the second hour of the morning brief on this Friday.
Planet Earth, third planet from the sun. A cool place within the solar system where you can pause and take a deep breath without your lungs exploding. Home to an amazing array of wildlife and amazing landscapes that will leave you breathless either through wonder or fear. For humans, it's a place they call home, the only one that they have now. Team Surai follows a dedicated group of individuals dedicated to protecting the planet. Their mission: to encourage viewers to take concrete steps to protect the Earth. Catch Team Surai Thursdays at 6 p.m. S3, open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's get to political news now. You will have seen, of course, that big development out of the Umkhonto weSizwe party yesterday with the former Secretary General Floyd Shivambu addressing media. Well, Shivambu says he will be undertaking nationwide consultations on whether or not there is a need for him to launch a new political party. Shivambu has spoken out about what he says were the reasons, the real reasons for his removal from the all-powerful political office in the party led by former President Jacob Zuma. He says, among others, the decision was founded on a fake intelligence report that purported to show that he was working with other people across the African continent to dislodge Zuma from the party's presidency. And even accused, he says he was even accused of seeking to engage in witchcraft in order to further his alleged political ambitions. But get this, Shivambu has blasted those who lead the MK party alongside Zuma, describing some of them as political scoundrels seeking to take advantage of Zuma's old age and gullibility. But he insists he will not resign from the MK party, despite exploring forming a new political party. Let's speak to political analyst Sandile Swana, who joins me now to take that conversation forward. So what did you make of that entire briefing, Sandile? There's an exploration of the formation of a new political party, so there'll be widespread consultation nationwide, working with a team that Floyd Shivambu says he has put together. But again, like Jacob Zuma said, when he formed the MK party, he said he wasn't leaving the ANC. Floyd Shivambu says exactly the same. He's not leaving the MK party, but is exploring the formation of a new political party. How does that work?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I agree to a very large degree with the view that
Sandile, apologies for that. Let me put you back on hold. We are battling a little bit with the line there to Sandile Swana, so we'd want to get it proper so that you can hear the conversation clearly. And do feel free as well to reflect on what you heard yesterday from Floyd Shivambu. And I think the way I wanted to frame the question to you this morning was, he says he'll be undertaking the process of consultation on whether or not there's a need for a new political party. And I wanted to pose that question directly to you, listening to the show this morning. Do you think there's still room? Is the market not already saturated? What is missing in the political market, quote unquote, that can be filled by a new political formation? We have a plethora of political formations. The IEC updates us whenever we're holding elections about the number of registered political parties. But is there still a gap? And what gap can the likes of Floyd Shivambu tap into, in your view? So let's get back to the conversation with Sandile Swana. Sandile, pick up where you left off. You were reflecting on what you heard yesterday. He is exploring the formation of a new political party, but he's not necessarily resigning from the MK party. How do we make sense of it?
Exactly. So yesterday, to me, was the initial kickoff of the relaunch of Floyd Shivambu's career after a rapid crash from being a Secretary General of the MK party and then spiraling down towards being a potential member of parliament and then to nothingness. So yesterday he was launching himself and his new political movement. So that's the first thing. And then he pointed out that in 6 months he has learned more about politics than he learned in 10 years in the EFF. And one of the technologies or techniques that he learned from Zuma is this one of dual membership, where you can be a member of two competing political parties at the same time, and actually even professing to be the one who is the true holder, the holder of the true vision of the political party that you have just left, in essence. So that is what where Shivambu has taken us. He has done a lot of work. When you listen to the list of names that he was saying there and the places he's going to visit, clearly has networked himself into the churches, into some unions, and he seems to have the money to travel all over the country and run these campaigns. I mean, he ran his press conference independently in a nice venue, and he said that he has never taken a cent to sponsor his travels and his movements and activities in MKP. So he has been inside there, but supported by other agencies whilst he was working inside MKP.
How do you believe the MK party will respond to the latest maneuvers? They've been seeking to not give it more traction than they think it deserves. But I'm just wondering, what's the likely response coming through from the MK party?
Knowing the likes of Nhleko and Zuma, they are going to fire Floyd very shortly, and they are probably going to tell their apprentices and their members not to associate with Floyd, not to have anything further to do with Floyd, and accuse him of lack of discipline and scandalize him further. That is what is going to happen. And they know that unlike what Zuma was doing with the ANC, pretending to be a member of the ANC whilst using that time of his membership and so on to really get to the regions and provincial executives and structures and prepare to strip the ANC and plant all sorts of agents inside the ANC. So Zuma knows that technique, and I think he's going to want to nip it in the bud.
All right, lastly then, that central question that Floyd Shivambu intends to put to South Africans. The market, the political market, is there room for the kind of political party with the leanings that we know that Floyd Shivambu espouses? Is there still room? You have your EFF, you have the African Transformation Movement, the MK Party, and other parties that are part of what is known as the Progressive Caucus in Parliament. Is there still room within that space? And can Floyd Shivambu, if he comes to the conclusion that a he's launching a new political party. Can he, fill that gap if there's a gap?
I think up front I will say Floyd Shivambu at best is launching a small party. Fortunately for him, there has been room of success of these small parties. Look at Gayton McKenzie with very little, close to nothing, is now a cabinet minister. But Floyd Shivambu is not launching a UDF or a mass democratic movement that will lead Zuma and lead everybody in the country on the left. That is not going to happen.
All right. Good. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's political analyst Sandile Swana weighing in. And as I said, you can weigh in on that conversation. The number to dial is and always is 086 000 2032. And I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. Already, I'm seeing quite a number of you reflecting on these political developments.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
All right, let's do this now. Let's take some of your voice notes that have come through. A lot of you reflecting on some of the conversations we had. In fact, let me start with this one that has to do with the MK party, as we've just had that conversation with Sandile Swana reflecting on what Floyd Shivambu will be doing.
Thulas, good morning. It's Sonabo from Hermanas. I'm so happy to see those two VPS scandalists, Jacob Zuma and Floyd, fighting. I'm so happy. This is what people are getting from stealing from the poor people. I must sell as a VPS. Cho.
All right. So that's one person's perspective there on what is going on within the MK party and the moves being undertaken by Floyd Shivambu in relation to the potential of forming a new political party.
And let's take the next voice note from Jacques from KZN.
Jacques, good morning.
To you and your team, to your new presenter, your future presenter.
Absolutely. I'm planning my retirement, Jacques.
No. I won't lie to you. Around the world, experience definitely, because the youth don't see themselves ahead of them, while experience and I would say age does teach you that.
Gotcha.
Okay. On my note in terms of Floyd and the MK, I'm so happy that someone's played a page out of Jacob Zuma's book. They've read it. They've played the page. Floyd has done it. I won't lie to you. This is the first time I think I'm going to praise him for being such a good strategist. And the other thing is, as an Indian person, as a minority in the country, I can't tell you how excited I am that all these political parties are fighting, giving us minorities at least a chance or a spoken voice because of the divisive nature of South African politics.
All right, Jacques, thank you for that. That's Jacques in KZN there. Let me take a call from Mukwena in Rustenburg, also on the same issue of Floyd Shivambu. Good morning to you, Mukwena.
Thulasizwe, good morning, my brother.
Good morning, brother.
The young lady that you are with in the
Always to yes.
Yes. The aura that Floyd brings into a space that he finds himself in, it's unmatchable. He is by far a very good political individual. I think he will succeed in what he will be trying to do. And though the writing is already on the wall, the party is going to be formed, that's for sure. And he played the chess very well to the former president by saying that I'm not going to resign. I'm still within this party, unless you decide otherwise, but I will remain in here. I believe he has a good space to maneuver around. Definitely is going to receive lots and lots of support. And we definitely need him into South African politics. We need a good opposition to the ruling party to make sure that they are always on their toes and they do what they are supposed to.
Interesting take. Thank you for that, Mukwena in Rustenburg.
And our next caller, Clerk from Cape Town, also on Mr. Floyd.
Good morning, Kirk.
Good morning to the CJ.
The expulsionist party that Jacob Zuma leads de facto was never going to be a lasting place for Floyd Shivambu. And you cannot go against Jacob Zuma. Has he learned nothing? Many have tried and many have failed.
Yes.
The stockpile that the MKP will continue to be successful without him until it implodes. And it's going to implode because it's based on people who were expelled by the parties, tainted figures, all power hungry, with lots of shenanigans allegedly happening within the party. So yeah, the writing was on the wall. He's cut all his, I don't know where he'll get support from in this fractured political environment. So yeah, he'll be gone like the mist, the morning mist, very soon.
All right. Thank you for that, Kirk. Let's move on very swiftly and short and sharp for me, if you don't mind, Solomon. Good morning to you. Also on the same issue of Floyd Shivambu.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. You see, political acumen left Shivambu when he jumped from the pen into the fire. By the time he joined MK, Zuma was already engaged in musical chairs, changing people on a weekly basis. I do not know what is that make him to think that he was going to stay forever as the SG, because the style of leadership by Zuma is to impose and elect his own leadership. Actually, there is no high command. There is only one man and one man alone. But Shivambu, with all his prowess and his exposure, he stooped so low. I think by now he's engaged again on a political survival tactic to establish a political formation, which really does not have the chance, because the space in the body politics is already over harvested, if one may say. A lot of political parties, and it has now lost essence to establish a political party.
All right, Solomon, let's leave it there. Thank you for your call this morning. That's Solomon in KZN. We will make time and take more of your calls and WhatsApp voice notes a bit later on.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
You know how it goes. It always goes this way, Zai. Anyone playing against a South African team, you know who we bet for. Masandawana all the way, Kabuyelo. Borussia Dortmund in trouble?
Bafana style. Yeah, they're meeting the Bundesliga Blitz. Of course they're in trouble because what have you got? German engineering and Mzansi flair. We know what is going to happen, right? We've got the Vrpa.
I love it.
So look out for it. It's happening in Cincinnati. Sundowns, they arrived with confidence to take on the German team, Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund were held to a goalless draw in their opener, while Sundowns, brimming with confidence, after a 1-0 win over Ulsan. Now, for Sundowns, a win will mean clinching a spot in the last 16. Now, more action from the Club World Cup. Palmeiras defeated Jose Rivero's Al Ahly 2-0 in round 2 to lead Group A with 4 points in a match that had been suspended after severe weather alerts in the second half. And Botafogo, they stunned the Champions League winners, Paris Saint-Germain 1-0. And after suffering a heavy 4-0 defeat against Paris Saint-Germain in their opener, Atletico Madrid, they bounced back with a 3-1 victory over the Seattle Sounders, and that was their Group B Club World Cup encounter. Inter Miami, that's Lionel Messi's Inter Miami, they had a 2-1 win over Porto. Now, the Real Madrid forward Kylian Mbappe hospitalized with an acute case of gastroenteritis. The World Cup winner Mbappe missed Madrid's opening game at the Club World Cup against Saudi Arabian team Al Hilal because of a fever. And South Africa's ICC World Test Championship hero Aiden Markram reflecting on what he called a career-defining century at Lord's. After a duck in the first innings, Markram bounced back with a sensational 136 against Australia, sealing the victory for the Proteas' first World Test Championship title. Together with himself and the team, they arrived to a hero's welcome at Ora Tambo, with fans and pundits calling the win historic for SA cricket.
I came here to celebrate the champions of South Africa, the cricket guys. And I'm here for KG. Love you, KG.
I've been following the Proteas since the time I was born, thanks to my dad. It's run in my family, cricket's run in my family. So to see us finally lift something was this feeling of elation, and I can't explain the feeling in words.
I'm here to support our boys and show them the love that they deserve. They did really well, and yeah, just really proud of them.
It means so much to me that we've won this tournament. It really does. It's especially after the World Cup final loss, was it 2 years ago? The heartbreak that we felt. This I think has put a bandage on our hearts, really.
And we'll swing back with more sport top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the funeral service of slain Zotwa Mdluli is scheduled to take place this morning at Mtimba TVET College in Masoe, Mpumalanga. Mdluli and a journalist partner, Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu, went missing in February this year. Electricity Minister Thulasizwe Simelane says the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan brings a holistic approach on energy development in the country. He was speaking during a roundtable discussion on energy transition in South Africa and Africa at the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town. And China has criticized the sailing of a British Navy ship through the Taiwan Strait, accusing London of stirring up trouble and threatening regional stability. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning, Gauteng. First up, if you're thinking I'll leave it a little bit before I get out in the traffic, it is Friday, and Friday is normally Easy Friday. It's not like that today. It's completely different. We've got a crash on the N1 South between Allendale and Buccleuch, so heavy pressure through Midrand area. There's also an issue around Samrand as well, so really put all that together. Old Joburg Road right the way basically to Buccleuch. It's pretty car park-ish stuff out there. Crash in amongst the roadworks on the R21 at Bupsfontein Road, opposite Tembisa. Heavy towards the airport, heavy towards Pretoria, both ways on the R21. We've also got a burning truck on Pretoria's N1 North going up towards Garsfontein, and that is a big queue. As you can imagine, most of the lanes are closed. The queue from Boerta Avenue all the way to Garsfontein is just continuing to get worse as well. Everybody having a look on the southbound as well, so coming through from Linwood Road on your way down to Rigel, that's all pretty heavily backed. Across into Durban, the N2 both sides into Spaghetti Junction remains heavy, going north from the M7 south from Umgeni Road. Truck crash recovery underway at Van Rieden's on your way to Durban. There's still quite a big backlog of traffic waiting to get through. The N3 remains closed to Durban-bound traffic at that scene. And if you're driving out of Cape Town on the M3, that highway also closed towards Tokai and Constantia from Travato Link, so just sort of Newlands Bishop's Court area. All that traffic backlogging into the closure point, and then some delays as you reroute off the M3 and head on local routes through Wynberg. And a crash on Cape Town's N2 inbound at the R300. That's pushing a big queue passing Kylie to right back almost to Baden-Powell Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Dowling, I could tell that you and Olwetu were having a bit more fun than I had envisaged. So I decided to cut that and get involved as well. Tell me about Stadio.
Jealousy, Tulas.
Can't be left out, man.
Doesn't look good on
Can't
you.
be left out of the fun. Tell me about Stadio. This is the education group, is it? Tell me about them and the progress they're making with the new campus.
That's right, Sula. So the private higher education firm that owns institutions like AFDA, now they're progressing with the construction of its Durbanville campus, set to open next year, and the board has approved phase 2 of the project ahead of schedule. Now, Stadio confirmed this in a business update, where it also reported an 8% increase in total student numbers, reaching 50,878 for the half year ending June. This growth was driven by an 8% increase in distance learning students and an 11% rise in contact learning students, with total contact learning students numbers increasing and hitting peaks last seen before the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the construction of the Durbanville campus is aimed at accommodating the growing demand for contact learners. Stadio has seen a significant rise in demand at its Bellville campus, particularly post the pandemic period. Notably, demand at the Bellville campus increased by 57% within just 3 months of this year, highlighting the need for expanded capacity, which the new Durbanville campus is set to address. Now, the group has been actively pursuing contact learning strategy, and it seems to be yielding positive results with strong growth in student numbers. That campus is expected to cater to 1,000 students and remote learners, with a total estimated spend of 325 million rands for phases 1 and 2. This investment will increase capacity to over 6,000 students once phase 2 is completed.
So, Ndawuleng, if I get this one right, I will know that at least I'm beginning to pay attention to these things. So if the question was asked on who wants to be a millionaire, who is Libstar and what do they do? My best answer would be that they are in transport and logistics. Am I correct? Or would I have lost R1 million?
Zero.
That's terrible.
Off the ball, off the mark.
Really?
I am disappointed.
Oh my goodness. Okay, tell me who they are then and tell me about them weathering the tough times.
So they are a consumer goods brands firm. They own products like Lancewood and those spices, Cape Herb and Spice.
Oh.
Do you know those products?
Aye. Go ahead, Ndawuleng. Don't expose me any further.
So the group, they've started their financial year on a strong note, reporting a 10% jump in revenue in the first 5 months of the year, driven by a 5.2% increase in volume sales and a 4.9% rise in price mix changes. This comes despite consumers facing pressure and, the growth we've started seeing in those private brands. The group says its brands, including Lancewood and Cape Herb and Spice, performed well, with revenue growth exceeding market expectations. Now, the company's ambient products category saw an 11.5% revenue increase, while the perishable products unit grew 8.9%. The company expects continued positive trading momentum for the rest of the year and is confident in delivering further growth. The update was welcomed by markets, with the share price hitting a 5-year high, gaining 16.5% in yesterday's close. Now, an interesting thing about Libstar is that not only do they make their own brands, they actually make private grocery brands for the big retailers. So one of their biggest customers is Woolies.
Okay. So could it be that I've seen trucks with that name and assumed that it's a trucking company as opposed? So I'm not completely off. I could call a friend and that friend would be you. And how are the markets looking at this hour, Ndawuleng?
Kicking things off in Asia, Thulas, markets in the green as traders assess the People's Bank of China's recent policy moves and keeping an eye on those developments in the Middle East. The Hong Kong Hang Seng leading the gains on that front. It's up 1.2%. Meanwhile, in the US, futures in the red. Those markets back online today, with traders eyeing the US's involvement in the Iran-Israel conflict. And then coming back home, stocks mixed in yesterday's session. The all share closing flat, losing 0.08%. In the currency scene, the rand is steady. This morning it's at 18.01 to the dollar this hour. This from lows of 18.12 that it hit yesterday. So we are seeing a slight improvement coming into the end of the week.
All right, Ndawuleng, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the third hour of the show. That's Ndawuleng Lechela there. She'll be back with one more update for you, in which update she will then give you a sense of the kind of trading day you can expect on this Friday.
Welcome back to the sun-drenched shores of St. Marie, where the beaches are beautiful and the murders are mysterious. It's Death in Paradise Season 7. New cases, quirky suspects, and D.I. Jack Mooney, who's still figuring out the island and how to drink coconut water gracefully. Catch the show where paradise meets puzzling crime, because even in paradise, someone always has a secret. Death in Paradise Season 7, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 28 May. S3, open up.
Tension and drama will go above the rooftop as the believers want to play in the Big Boys League, while the citizens say they are used to life in Mzansi's elite league. This is the PSL Promotional Playoffs. Catch Cashrick Stars versus Cape Town City this Saturday, 21 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
19 minutes to 8. I'm still with Olwethu Khanyile, part of the SAFM Youth Takeover. So there's a very nice message for you here, Olwethu. Someone here, Mtunzi, says, Olwethu is a true sport. I like her honesty. She's nicely warming up into the craft and finding her mojo as the show progresses. Not even the sky can be the limit with such confidence. Yeah, there you have it.
Thank you.
Straight from Mtunzi there.
Thank you, Mtunzi.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's hear from our listeners now. Let's take a call from the conversation we had with Mark Haywood earlier on. In fact, let me start with some voice notes. Someone wants to reflect on what Mark Haywood had to say about the food insecurity situation and the petition that has been started up about food prices in the country.
Mark should be worried about the prices of fuel, not about the CEO of ShopRite. How many people does ShopRite employ in our communities? And that bread that is subsidized, that fakumoya that we always buy at ShopRite. Not that I love, these big businesses like ShopRite, but at least we can see, as a person on the ground, we can see what ShopRite is trying to do here. Let them fight the prices of fuel, then the price of food will go down.
Yeah, Fred, so part of the rationale when I was reading the rationale for why they are particularly raising the issue around ShopRite and the role that it could play, they're talking about companies that are making a profit within the retail sector, to say there may be a moral voice that you need to listen to that says food prices have gone up and many of your ordinary customers are now battling. And I think that's really the framing that says when you are doing well and you're realizing profits, as well as, the dividends and bonuses and the likes. I think that's the element that they are talking to. Fuel prices, as you talk to there, Fred, that's another element, and Olwethu would tell you better than I can about the value chain and the supply chains and how everything feeds into everything else. Let me take a call from Mukwena in Polokwane. Good morning.
Morning, Thulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Okay. Thulas, man, I'm worried about the rate of unemployment for our young professionals, man.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I'm from Limpopo.
Yeah.
Do you know how many doctors are not working here? Doctors and nurses, radiographers, pharmacists. I'm telling you, it's alarming. And the minister promised there will be an advertisement of 1,200 posts before the budget speech. Can you maybe find out from that department, the Department of Health, or from the minister?
Yeah. No,
what's happening? I'm telling you, there's a lot of doctors not working.
No, it's worth a follow-up, Mukwena. And there had been that problem of absorption of the newly qualified doctors, and you're absolutely right. It was addressed in the budget. But I wonder what the lag time is between the budget announcement and the actual implementation of those projects.
Please, just do a follow-up for us, Thulas.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Mukwena in Polokwane.
And our next caller, Mbona from Maiken, on the Israel and Iran tensions.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Look, Iran got 92 million people, and Israel got 9 million people. So Israel wants to tell Iran not to have nuclear, But if you look at the citizens of Iran, it's more far than Israel. And America cannot tell themselves they are not involved into the war. They are already in the war because they are giving Israel weapons. They're shielding Israel to face the genocide. So you cannot say you're not going to face a resistance when you are doing the wrong thing. You're going to receive a huge resistance from all corners of the world because there's no one who's going to accept what you wish to do in this world.
Yeah.
We are all equal.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that, Mbona and Mahikeng. The point you are raising there, Mbona, reminds me of the debate that is raging within the United States about whether or not the U.S. should get involved. I saw an interview by Tucker Carlson, and he was talking to this one senator, prominent senator, but for some reason the name won't come to me. And he asked him this question of how many people live in Iran. And when the senator could not answer, it became an issue where Tucker Carlson, who, interestingly, a lot of people in America are saying, for a change, he's actually one of the people who are making sense about whether or not, America should get involved in this conflict. And it went on to make the point that if you are urging the U.S. to get involved in this conflict and bomb a country, at the very least, you need to have the basics about the composition of the population, how many people live there, what are the dynamics once you start dropping the bombs, what would then play out. So it's all very interesting in the United States. Opinion very divided about whether or not the U.S. should get directly involved in the bombing campaign in Iran. Warren in Stutterheim, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about food prices?
Yes, good morning, and to your young lady there. Food prices, what suppliers are doing, specifically, I say dairy products, cheeses. They are packing smaller packs, the prices more or less the same as it used to be a year and a half ago. But if Checkers, for instance, or Pick n Pay run specials, they push pressure on the supplier to drop the price. There are lost leaders, I think. There are lost leaders. But people have to work and people have to employ people and they have to make a profit.
Yeah.
So, now, Mark Haywood is not correct all the time.
Yeah.
But enjoy the day and have a nice time in
All right,
Joburg.
Warren. Thank you for that. That's Warren in Stutterheim. Just on the point I was making about the senator that was being interviewed, thank you for that person who just sent me a reminder. Just short and sharp, very nicely done. Ted Cruz is the name. I don't know why it was escaping me.
And our next caller, Becky from Pretoria, on his inputs on Sundowns and Floyd.
I'm Peggy from Mpumalanga. Good morning, my sister, and good morning to us.
Good morning, Peggy. Sure.
Thank you. I just want to weigh in Floyd Shivambu's briefing yesterday. I have learned something from Floyd, number one, that he is a very disciplined cadre by boldly saying that he's not going to resign from MK. However, even there are those challenges. But I would plead with him, if he's listening to this radio station, to start dusting himself and eating a humble pie. Maybe meet with Julius Malema or meet with the ANC. He can play a major role in those two political parties. For him, I would advise not to open his own party. But coming to Mamelodi Sundowns, I'm a little bit worried about the tactics of Cardoso, Coach Cardoso. I have watched at Mamelodi Sundowns very close, and he did cost Mamelodi Sundowns the Champions League, the CAF Champions League, by not fielding Thembazwane.
I remember that criticism, yeah.
Yes, we know what Thembazwane could do. He's a catalyst. The contribution that he has made in that game they won in this FIFA Club World Cup was massive. And when he substituted him and a player like Rivero, I don't understand what point was he trying to prove. But somebody has to speak sense to him and understand the culture of playing of Mamelodi Sundowns. Thulas, I thank you and your listeners.
Peggy, thank you as always. That's Peggy in Mpumalanga. Let me quickly squeeze in Les in the Western Cape. Good morning to you, Les. You want to talk about political parties?
Yeah, the political party here in South Africa, the system of political party here in South Africa is not growing. There's no stability here in South Africa. The reason why I'm saying this, we've got only three political parties that are liberation movement. It's ANC, DA, and SACP. The other one is attempting IFP. The reason why I'm saying this,
Wait. Did you say ANC, DA, and SACP as liberation movements?
Yeah, reason why it's a liberation movement. The reason why those political parties are party of the people. They've got a representative for the people, and the conference that they run to elect their own political leaders. Those other parties, like the Progressive Party, whereby sometimes we've got the NKEFF, a good party, PAUDN, Al Jamaa, Action South Africa, Bonza, the COPE. Those political parties are owned by their own leaders. Their leaders are owned. They are private-owned political parties. And therefore, in this case, whereby those political parties are owned, there's no, as you can say, there's no the ideological, if you want to raise your own ideological ideas, they are not allowed, and you cannot contest to be a leader for those political parties. Therefore, in this case,
but Les, the EFF has an elective process. Just as an example, they do have electoral processes and hold their conferences, and with a renewal of leadership every 5 years. And in fact, at the one conference that I attended, I think there was even someone who even raised their hand. In fact, to contest even the position of president. And I think the argument was to say we want to make it known that it is not taboo to challenge. Of course, they didn't go far in that challenge.
Besides that, but the decision of Parliament is final. Therefore, what I was proposing, if those political parties, those who are owned, like UDM, Holomisa, and everything, those parties, if they can unite to form a political party whereby there are one voice, rather than to have many political parties here in South Africa, I think they can represent the people rather than to preview. Because right now they are representing their own rights,
All right,
their own
Les.
interests.
Let's leave it there for this morning. Those are the reflections there of Les on the systems of political parties in the country.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a busy Friday on Gauteng highways, largely because of multiple crash scenes. There's just been a fresh one at Samrand on the N1 going south, and it's also having an impact on the northbound as well. So both ways into Samrand Road, quite heavy. Another crash further down before you get to Buccleuch. So from New Road on your way through to Joburg, that all gets heavy. Crash in the middle of the roadworks on the R21 just by Bupsfontein. That is heavy to the airport and heavy towards Pretoria as well to watch for. Also a collision on the N12 eastbound just after Galuli. So if you're coming off the N3 wanting to turn to the airport or out towards Boksburg and Benoni, that is quite slow. And the other big one is a truck fire in Pretoria, N1 North going into Garsfontein. Multiple lanes closed at that scene. Big queues all the way back to Botha Avenue. Stay off that N1 off-ramp at Botha Avenue. Just hit some alternative routes before you get stuck in that. Southbound, everybody having a look. So from the N4 Emelathleni Highway down through to Rigel, that's pretty heavily backed as well. Still dealing with the truck crash scene on the N3 at Van Reenens Pass, just south of the village near Pyramids Hotel. Quite a backlog of traffic still to be processed through that scene. Durban, the N2 going north up to Gateway is heavy, and there's a crash on the Phoenix Highway near Rockford Drive, so it's the southern section of the Phoenix Highway going to and from the trade centre that's quite heavy. Cape Town's M3 at Wynberg Hill has opened. All those crash scenes are basically out of the way. Crash on the N2 inbound at the R300, slowing traffic past Khayelitsha. And Philip Kosana going out of Cape Town CBD, a crash before Hospital Ben, queuing traffic on your way out of town. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The reigning champions Banyana Banyana and 11 African national teams are ready to tackle each other for WAFCON 2024 to determine who are the real queens of the continent. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Experience the Women Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 1 and SABC 2. Also available on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Tension and drama will go above the rooftop as the believers want to play in the Big Boys League, while the citizens say they are used to life in Mzansi's elite league. This is the PSL promotional playoffs. Catch Cashwick Stars versus Cape Town City this Saturday, 21 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
It's coming up to 4 minutes to 8. Let's turn to the story. Government has announced a partial lifting of its ban on chicken imports from Brazil, implementing a new compartmentalized biosecurity strategy. The move excludes poultry from the avian flu-hit state of Rio Grande do Sul, but allows imports from all other Brazilian states to resume from today. The decision aims to avert a looming food security crisis, especially for low-income households reliant on affordable processed meat products, and comes alongside a renewed national push to strengthen biosecurity across the agricultural sector. Let's speak to Simelane Motebe, who is the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters. Simelane, good morning and thank you for your time. The next voice will be that you hear will be Olwethu Kanyile's voice, who is part of the SAFM Youth Takeover.
Good morning,
Morning.
Simelane. So I just want to understand, what was your reaction as the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters to the government's decision to lift the ban on the chicken imports from Brazil after the recent outbreak?
Good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having us. We truly appreciate the agility in which government moved towards getting us to a point of having a partial uplifting of the ban. What that means essentially is that we can import product from all provinces that are not affected by the flu. This is what we call regionalization or compartments in terms of poultry trade. However, despite the uplifting of the ban, we cannot trade at this point with Brazil because there are some documents that the South African government still has to complete and hand over to Brazil to allow the Brazilian veterinary services to approve products for export to South Africa. So that is where we are, and the government has assured us that they are working on the document, and at this point we just, I think, urging the agility that we saw in trying to resume exports from Brazil to apply again in this instance to make sure that we can quickly and swiftly move to having the product being imported from Brazil to South Africa. So in essence, with the uplifting that was declared yesterday, effective yesterday, no trade has resumed because we still have some documents outstanding between the two governments.
Do you know what measures are put in place to prevent future outbreaks?
Globally, avian influenza is a reality. Up to about a month ago, Brazil was the only country that had not declared avian influenza outbreak. So we are in an era where disease outbreaks are there. It's about how you manage them. That is why countries have moved swiftly towards regionalization as a concept, because that concept allows you to isolate the affected area in a country and be able to still trade in regions that are not affected. That is the only way forward at this point, in addition to any other scientific measures that may be looked into and or are applied in other countries.
Thank you, Simelane, for your inputs on the recent lifting of the ban of chicken imports from Brazil.
Right, that was Simelane Motebe, the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters. Let's go now to N. Musa, who is on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top story, Zotwa Mhluli's funeral to take place this morning and South African government ready for renewable energy plan. Good morning. The funeral service of slain Zotwa Mhluli is scheduled to take place this morning at Mtimba TVET College in Masoe, Mpumalanga. Mhluli and a journalist partner, Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu's bodies were found last month after they went missing in February. Their remains were found in Rustenburg on the border of Limpopo with Gauteng, following an extensive search and investigation. 5 suspects have been arrested and charged with the kidnapping and murder of the couple. They are expected to appear before the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court today. Electricity Minister Thulasizwe Simelane says the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan brings a holistic approach on energy development in the country. South Africa has an abundance of renewable energy sources, including sunshine and wind. Fossil fuels like coal continue to be used, but require technology to clean the smoke emitted to mitigate the effects of climate change. The minister was speaking during a roundtable discussion on energy transition in South Africa and Africa at the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town.
At the same time, we approach this transition with a pragmatic clarity. A reliable and secure energy future will rest on a balanced mix that includes clean coal technologies, flexible gas generation, and nuclear power, all integrated into a decarbonization pathway that is responsible, feasible, and nationally determined.
Meanwhile, Eswatini's Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Prince Lonkokela Dlamini, says a skewed risk perception for development financing for African countries is hindering the development of energy construction projects. Dlamini was speaking during the Africa Energy Forum in Cape Town. He says more land should also be made available.
One important thing is finance. Availability of finance is important. We are seen as risky, especially as the African countries, developing countries. Yet when you go to the ground, you do see that it is not as perceived by those who say Africa is risky.
The Pietermaritzburg High Court has set a date for the trial of 2 men accused of killing former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaka. He was killed in an ambush in 2017. The trial will take place from the 6th to the 30th of October. The 2 accused, Bonele Mieza and Mbulelo Mpofana, have been served with new indictments after the co-accused pleaded guilty earlier this month. The Magaka family says they are happy with the progress made in the matter. Magaka's brother Luazi comments on the latest developments.
As the 4th accused is pleaded guilty, there is a light at the end of the channel. Just because all along, since 2017, we have been in the dark sphere, not knowing what is happening about this case. But now, as some names have been mentioned, we are hoping that justice is going to take its course. As a family, we are hoping that everything is going to go well.
And finally, China has criticized the sailing of a British Navy ship through the Taiwan Strait, accusing London of stirring up trouble and threatening regional stability. Taiwan welcomed the move by HMS Spey, calling it a strong show of support for freedom of navigation. The BBC's Tessa Wong has the details.
The Royal Navy has said that it's a routine deployment and it's all in accordance to international law. That said, I think it is sort of an indicator of an increased British presence in the region. It's worth noting that the HMS Spey is going through at a time where a British carrier strike group is also passing through the region. It's spending 8 months in the Indo-Pacific. And just before they took off, Keir Starmer actually said that it was meant to show a clear message of strength to adversaries and a message of unity to allies.
Recapping the top story, the funeral service of slain Zotwa Mdluli is scheduled to take place this morning at Mtimba TVET College in Maswei, Mpumalanga. Mdluli and a journalist partner, Sibusiso Aseri Ndlovu's bodies were found last month after they went missing in February. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Breaking news just in. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month off her car insurance premium. That's right. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket, the Proteas women set to commence their 3-match T20 tournament series against the West Indies today, and that's all taking place in Barbados. And in rugby, Felix Jones back in the Springbok camp. This time he's bringing a sharper, fresh perspective. We'll have all that and more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The last thing it is across Gauteng is an easy Friday. It's completely different this morning. A big truck fire incident on Pretoria's N1 North going up to Castfontein. Multiple lanes are closed. Big backlogs from Buerta Avenue Centurion up to Pretoria. Very heavy. Coming south, it's pretty bad as well from the N4 Emelefeni Highway down to the Rigel due to onlooking. Crash on the N1 at Samran. That's delaying traffic both directions this morning. And then a crash on the N1 south down by Beclu. Another crash after that down by Marlborough Drive on the Mike 1. So really between sort of New Road and Santon, there's a lot of traffic pressure, and a crash on the R21 at Bupsfontein in amongst all the roadworks causing delays as well. Durban, the Phoenix Highway at Hannaford Drive, there's a crash there, or Rockford Drive, I beg your pardon. Phoenix Highway at Rockford Drive going out towards the R102. That is very busy this morning. The N2 going northbound, jammed up heavily as you make your way from the M7 up through the roadworks at Westwood Mall territory, and still truck crash recovery underway at Van Rieden's Pass. Quite a backlog on the Durban-bound side to be processed there. Cape Town, the M3 at Bishop's Court, Wynberg Hill has all been reopened after a series of crashes. But if you're on the M3, Philip Kosana coming out of town, that's quite heavy. A crash before Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 on this Friday. It is great to be in your company. We are into the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and still hanging out with Olwethu Khanyile, who's about to leave me. So I thought we should keep her for just a few more minutes. She does have an exam, and it's a really important one. And it sounds like a really tricky one to write, Olwethu. So we thought we'd just get you to reflect before you leave. How did you find this morning's experience?
It started off challenging. I was a bit anxious, but I got used to it. I got comfortable.
Yeah.
Just started, when you start something,
yes,
it's a bit shaky, but once you get used to it, you'll be comfortable.
It's always like that. Don't worry about it. Even the nerves never really go away. You could be doing this for 20, 30 years. If it no longer makes you nervous, then it means you're now taking it for granted, and therefore, you know what I mean. So tell me, you've got nerves of steel, by the way. You're seated so nicely on that chair when you have an exam coming up. Tell me about any thoughts about where this could lead. This experience in broadcasting, is it something that you want to think about, grapple with, and how do you infuse it with what you are studying and your passion?
I think with broadcasting, maybe I could be one day a researcher, also be a guest, maybe in shows and just putting my input. But like as a career, like me doing what you're doing, I don't think I could. But as an economic analysis, then I think giving my input in interviews. I think I could do that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Let me not keep you any longer. That's Olwethu Khanyile there. That's the other voice you've been hearing all morning. And indeed, we could do with more voices like her and the expertise that she will, bring into this space of broadcasting. There's a lot of concepts that we grapple with that do need explaining so that there's proper understanding of those concepts. All the best to Olwethu for that exam that's coming up at 9 a.m. and she's about to leave the studio at this point. Your calls 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes. Please send them to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Got a Standard Bank business account and self-service banking? You could win up to 5,000 Rand cash every day next week in the Standard Bank self-service quiz. SMS Standard Bank self-service to 45787 for a chance to be selected. Answer 2 easy questions about Standard Bank self-service banking to be a winner. Tune in every day next week on the midday link-up to see if it's you. Standard Bank. It can be. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
As a business owner, I've noticed how being energy efficient has improved my savings and the growth of my business. You too can improve your margins by adopting energy efficient behaviors. Simply switch to energy saving lighting, switch off non-essential equipment, and maintain HVAC systems. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to see your business soar as well as contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
The Rockets want to take full control of 90 minutes. Meanwhile, First Touch ladies want to transition quick with First Touch football. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Do not miss out on glittering action between TS Galaxy Queens and First Touch ladies on Saturday 21 June at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's pick up where we left off and take some of your WhatsApp voice notes and calls this morning on the various topics that we have raised. One coming through from Mabongo in King Williamstown saying best of luck to Olwethu Khanyile on her exams. She sounds amazing. So Olwethu has left now on her way to write her exam. Let me take 1 or 2 voice notes. In fact, let me just start with that one that has to do with Olwethu, who was part of the show this morning.
Good morning, Thulas and the team. I would like to extend my gratitude to Olwethu. Our country is in good hands. Good luck Olwethu with your exam and your future endeavors. BK, thank you.
I love it. Thank you for that, BK. Let me take other voice notes now. Let me start with this one that is about Floyd Shivambu that came in a bit earlier on.
Hey, Krotman, Thulas, your guests, all the best on your exams, your team. Great show always. It's Ango JJ, the truck driver. You see, Floyd is mentally disturbed. Now he's telling us that there's 7 million being withdrawn every month. Floyd, doesn't he know where the police station is? Doesn't know where the SARS offices are? He mustn't kid us, man. Just go back to MK, sit down, apologize, go back to your Secretary General. Sango JJ, the truck driver.
Uncle JJ, we always appreciate your calls. For a change, he wasn't hooting this morning. He wasn't, the hooter wasn't blaring. We always appreciate you, Uncle JJ. Stay safe on the roads. And it does sound like it's a bit calmer today where you are driving. Stay safe there. Let me take another one that has to do with Floyd Shivambu.
Good morning, and this is Simelane and SFM listeners.
I think Floyd is the right decision for Floyd to form a new political party because under a big three grows nothing, and he's also a great leader. In Pretoria.
Oh, wow, that's an interesting take on it. Under a big tree grows nothing. So he's also a great leader that has potential to grow on his own. Thank you for that. Let me go to Robert in East London. Good morning to you, Robert. You want to raise in fact, make your point. You're talking about negativity in South Africa.
Yes, good morning. Morning, Thulas. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, man, I listened to your program. I've been listening to it for a long time. And Kathy and the 12 o'clock shot with Sakina, whoever's on there. And all you hear is finger pointing, blaming, negativity. Very seldom there's positive stuff. And I'm actually tired of it. I'm not going to listen to your programs anymore. I've been listening to a program from Link FM in East London, a religious program, and it brings calmness to me, and it makes me feel better during the day. So I'm not going to listen to these political programs anymore because, especially me being white, they want to kill the whites, shoot the farmer. That's all you hear. And the whites always been put down. So I'm not interested. And the guys, I'm not being racist, but the guys I listen to on this other program, there's a lot of black pastors, and they are absolutely amazing because they preach the word, and there's only one way this country is going to come right.
Sure.
People must go down, heal on their knees, pray for the country, and let it get right. It's the only way. There's no other way that's going to work.
I hear you, Robert. Before you go, Robert, do you mind if I engage you just a little bit? I hear you, and I appreciate where you're coming from about the negativity, and I can't quibble with that there is a fair amount of negativity that comes through. But is it not part of grappling with the issues that the country faces? Because objectively, we do face a lot of problems, and I think it's in the conversations and being real with one another where we start to find the solutions. Is that not a big part of it?
I was a victim of BEE, and I was very bitter and very sour for many years until I decided I'm just ruining my own life by being bitter and negative myself. So I decided to change my life and look to the Lord for His guidance, and He's helping me. I'm not negative anymore. I'm positive.
All right.
But by listening to these programs, I'm starting to become negative again, and I'm drifting away, and I'm back on track. So that's my take.
All right. No, thank you for that, Robert. We do hope you continue to tune in. And I get the point that you're talking about just for your own mental wellness and mental health and peace of mind, that perhaps it's best for you to tune out for a little bit. But as I say, it always is about grappling with the issues to the full extent, facing the problem as it is and calling it out for what it is, and then solutions workshopping together. I must say, I sit in this chair every day and I hear a variety of voices. Sometimes I do feel like, there's a lot of negativity. But one thing that I always take away, there are always solutions that do come through. Sometimes not best expressed, but when you listen to threads of what people are saying, you start to pick up these are the issues that people feel strongly about that may lead us to solutions. Linda in Boksburg, good morning to you. You want to talk about Floyd Shivambu?
Listen, the problem in this country is that we now have a new reality show, and this reality show comes out of politics. You see, politicians have a very exaggerated
real politicians of Mzansi.
Yes. They have an exaggerated sense of themselves that is peppered with them undermining the public intelligence. And that's what is happening here. It's such a mess that everyone is doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know what results are they intending to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, Floyd Shivambu is caught in a situation where he was trying to be clever, playing street politics with street clevers, basically, between Julius Malema and Jacob Zuma. He's a clever black. He's gone to school. He knows politics from the books, but he's not street smart.
And he was outsmarted in your view. Linda, let's leave it there. That's Linda in Boksburg. Let me go to Tinga in Makado. Tinga, good morning. You also want to weigh in on Floyd Shivambu?
Hi, Thulas. I don't have a problem with Floyd with his initiative. I think it's a good thing. I support it. I listen to many saying that, no, the space is saturated. Yeah, but they'll talk about ideology. We can have same ideology, but different strategies.
Yeah.
But look what we have in South Africa. We're talking about these progressive parties that are mushrooming. It's true, but they are mushrooming, but they are not bringing solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if there are many and they are not bringing solutions, and this gentleman here, Mr. Shivambu, said, no, I'm coming and I'll bring solutions. So let's give him a space.
Sure,
India has 4,500 political parties.
Sure.
Yeah, of course, their population is bigger, but we have got 450. So to me, it's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Thulas.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
No, I hear you, Tinga. But does the electorate have appetite for those options, or do you get a sense that people have pretty much settled in terms of these are the parties, these are the leaders, the personalities we are likely to support? For instance, let me ask you, to what extent does personality play a role? Does a Floyd Shivambu have that personality that Jacob Zuma has that led to the formation of MK Party, the Julius Malema personality, etc., etc.? Does that matter?
A good question. Let's test him, but we do not know the type of the team that will assemble.
Yeah.
But you know what? We don't have to rule him out on the basis that he's a technocrat. He's good in writing and all those type of things.
Gotcha.
Let's wait. He may bring a very good leader. In that new formation. We really welcome him. So he should not be discouraged. We are waiting for him to support him. We need new things because progressive parties that are there, they are not bringing solutions. They are no solutions to our problem.
All right, Tinga, thank you for that. That's Tinga in Makado there. Interesting take on the political developments. You certainly get the sense that it will be an interesting period building up to the local government elections. I saw my good friend Stem Somi talking about how no politician who's ever undertaken this exercise to go and consult South Africans about whether or not to establish a party has ever come back and said the people have said no. So, I don't know, make of that what you will, but that's the take of Stem Somi there, that, this has never happened, that you consult and come back and say, other people have said no, so therefore no new political party.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
So we're commemorating Youth Month, and there's a great focus on South Africa's youthful population. And there's always this reminder about the sacrifices of the 1976 Soweto uprising generation and the critical role of young people in shaping the future. Yet there's elements that do need to be brought to the fore that perhaps don't always enjoy as much attention as they should. Despite their potential, adolescents as a group, as a category of young people in this country, continue to face overlooked health and well-being challenges exacerbated by poverty, digital and climate shifts, and social pressures. With Africa set to host nearly half of the world's adolescent population by 2100, the urgency to invest in this group has never been greater. Let's speak to Professor Eugene Davis, who is an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. I had a bit of a stutter because 2100 seems like a long way off. So that's why I had that bit of a stutter in terms of the year I'm talking about. But talking about this category of young people known as adolescents, help us grapple with the realities that they are facing as they grow up in contemporary South Africa.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and the listeners as well. You are so correct as saying 2,100. The first time I saw that number as well, I struggled with it as well because it's a long way off. But adolescents are typically young people between the ages of 10 and 19 years. And as you correctly mentioned, Africa is set to be home to the largest group of adolescents, close to 45% by the year 2100. But what we see in terms of, just to paint a picture to the listeners of what adolescence in South Africa looks like with the limited data that we do have, is that we are seeing high levels of anxiety and depression, increased substance use, a new trend in terms of vaping, where close to 16% of school-going adolescents are vaping. The age of sexual debut, which is first time to have sex, is the age of 16. And we're seeing that there's an increase in risk for sexually transmitted infections and a rise in non-communicable diseases, such as increased weight, obesity, and elevated cholesterol levels. And this particular picture for young people in South Africa is further exacerbated due to global trends such as climate change. This group of young people will be the only group to ever experience their entire adolescent and adult life with the exposures of climate change, but also the rapid change of the digital environment. So the use of AI, access to social media and the internet. And so this is just to paint a picture to Thulasizwe of what adolescence looks like in South Africa with limited data that we have available.
So these phenomena and trends that you just talked to have been studied as part of the Healthy Adolescent Behaviors, investigating trajectories in South Africa and its habits. That study is known as Habits in short. What's the best thinking about how a country with a youthful population, a growing adolescent population, grapples with policy initiatives and other interventions that speak to the challenges you just outlined?
So one of the key things that we are aiming for is to invest in the health and well-being of adolescents, and that's when the Habit study came about. So it's a relatively new study by the Department of Psychology at the University of Pretoria. And what we are aiming to do is, as the first step, is to trying to get data on adolescents to understand their health and well-being. And so we want to invite schools who'd like to form part of this particular study to join the study, and they could reach out to me via email, which is by my name and my surname. So it's eugene.davids@up.ac.za. But it's largely for us to make data available, to sit with schools and think about developing targeted interventions for the health concerns, but also for them to identify the areas that the young people are doing well in. And this is all for us to get a clearer picture of adolescent health and well-being in South Africa, because we have limited data. The last time a big survey has ever been done on young people in South Africa is a good few years ago, which has been stopped. And so we want to invest in health and well-being of adolescents as well, Thulasizwe.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Important bit of work that you are doing there. That's Professor Eugene Davids, who is an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Pretoria.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you once again. Talk to me about the T20 that's coming up involving the Proteas women.
Oh, our women are cooking in the Caribbean.
Oh, yeah.
They beat, Sri Lanka. They had a 2-1 ODI series win. Now they're facing the West Indies 3-match T20I series starting today in Barbados. Coach Mandla Mashimbi is using this tour to fine-tune combinations. And with Laura Wolfhard leading the charge, the Proteas women are ready to fire on all formats. First ball being bowled in Barbados, 8 p.m. tonight. Now, soccer, Mamelodi Sundowns have arrived in Cincinnati brimming with confidence after a 1-0 win over Ulsan. Next up, the German giants Borussia Dortmund. They were held to a goalless draw in their opener. For Downs, this win against Dortmund would mean clinching a spot in the last 16. Some rugby news. Felix Jones is back in the Springbok camp, this time bringing a new perspective. The Irishman, who helped guide South Africa to 2 World Cup titles, says the Boks must keep growing and improving ahead of a demanding 2025 calendar. Now, part of a renewed coaching setup, Jones will be instrumental as the Boks gear up for the incoming series against Italy and Georgia. He brings new insight from his brief stint with England and is expected to help evolve the team tactically.
People from all over different parts of the country, from different backgrounds, that are playing rugby in different countries, younger guys, older guys. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, is that we were able to draw upon all those sources, if I can call it like that, and trying to boil it down and get it down to one thing is also a challenge, but it's also one of the great strengths, that when you get it right, it can be quite special.
All right, some tennis news now. 12 days after her bruising French Open final defeat, the world number one Aryna Sabalenka returned to winning ways. She wrapped up her second round match against Rebecca Masarenova in Berlin, 6-2, 7-6. Coco Gauff, fresh from her French Open crown, she faced an unexpected call at the Berlin Open. She was taken down in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3 by Chinese qualifier Wang Jinyu. And the top seed, the world number one in the men's, is Yannick Sinner. He was stunned by Kazakhstan's Alexander Bublik in Halle, 6-3, 3-6, 6-4, which was quite a surprise for him. Ended his run early and snapped his streak against outside top 20 opponents. And finally, golf. Scottie Scheffler and Austin Eckert are sharing the lead after the first day of the Travelers Championship taking place in Connecticut. Both players are on 8 under par, 2 ahead of their nearest rivals. A pack of 3 that includes Rory McIlroy, Wyndham Clark, as well as Keegan Bradley. And that's a wrap of your sport. You'll catch me on Spotlight this Saturday from 7 p.m. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the South African Reserve Bank Governor, Lesija Hanyago, will be sworn in today as the 16th Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. University spokesperson Martin Viljoen says Hanyago was unanimously selected as the Chancellor in January this year. The funeral service of slain Zotwa Mdluli is scheduled to take place this morning at Mtimba TVET College in Masoyi, Mpumalanga. The remains of Mdluli and her journalist partner, Sibisiswa Seri Ndlovu, were found last month in Rustenburg on the border of Limpopo with Gauteng after the couple had gone missing in February. And health officials in Gaza say at least 23 people were killed by Israeli forces overnight near aid distribution centers. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some really heavy traffic around Gauteng, but it's around some incidents only on the highways. Everything else is moving very nicely indeed. Friday before payday is often the quietest of the month. We're queuing heavily on the N1 North into a truck fire incident on the side of the N1 just before Garsfontein. Quite heavy getting up from the R21. You'll sit in traffic. Also crash on the M1 South at Midrand, Samran, but that's having an equally big impact on the northbound as well. So very heavy. In fact, the crash is northbound. A big pardon. Northbound is the crash. That's heavy. Southbound with a big volume, heavy, having a look at that as well. Crash on the Mike 1 at Marlborough Drive, so coming off Buccleuch is very slow. A lot of pressure around the Crown, the Mike 1 North, the M2 West from Joe Slover, all very slow. And a collision in amongst the roadworks on the R21 at Tembisa, causing delays to and from the airport. Durban M2 North, 2 queues to work through, one up to Westwood Mall into the roadworks, another between Commercial and Gateway. That's all fairly heavy. Van Rynen's Pass, the scene is being cleared, the lanes have been reopened, and the backlog has got through. And Cape Town, well, it's pretty easy. Friday, that side, the elevated freeway is busy into the city centre, and traffic lights appear to be badly short timing on Baden-Powell Drive at Strandfontein Road. If you're heading to Muizenberg this morning, there is a queue. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once again to Ndauling for the final update of the morning. Ndauling, tell me about the Reserve Bank and its outlook around the prospects of the South African economy and the prospects of being removed from the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force.
So, Thulas, the SARB is quite confident that South Africa will be removed from the Financial Action Task Force's grey list in October. This as a result of SA addressing all 22 anti-money laundering action items. Now, the move is expected to reduce risk and uncertainty for the country's financial system. This was indicated in the SARB's latest financial stability review, which also affirmed that SA's financial system remains resilient despite increased risks since the last review in November. Now, the SARB highlighted risks like geopolitical tensions, fragile infrastructure, and the threat of sudden capital outflows. In the meantime, the SARB has raised concerns about slower economic growth, which could cause problems for households with debt. And so to ensure some sort of stability, the Reserve Bank will require banks to set aside a buffer, basically extra funds starting from September. Governor Kganyago also said that uncertainty remains a big concern, comparing current conditions to the uncertainty seen during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sure, that's interesting, especially that bit about banks to be expected to keep a buffer. You think that's coming up in September?
From September, it will require them to keep that buffer in September.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about retail confidence. Tell me what happened in quarter two of the year.
The retail confidence declining for a second quarter in a row due to weakening business conditions and slower sales growth. This comes despite a strong rebound in retail sales. So those hard data figures that we got yesterday, where we saw sales up 5% in April. Now, according to the Bureau for Economic Research, business confidence in the retail, wholesale and motor sectors dropped to 42% in the second quarter from 50% in the previous quarter. This print measuring confidence in the sector alludes to the kind of activity we could see moving forward. And the BER survey shows that sales volumes and order levels have weakened, causing the retail sales volumes index to drop into negative territory. The slowdown follows a period of robust activity driven by factors such as the two-pot withdrawals, as well as timid inflation, as well as those rate cuts we saw coming through since September last year. Moving ahead, the BER warns that retailers should prepare for softer consumer spending in the second half of the year. So they are noting that we probably still will see increased consumption, but at a slower pace.
Lastly, Ndauling, what kind of a day can we expect in the markets on this Friday?
Another mixed day of trade expected for local markets, Thulas, as geopolitical tensions remain at the center of markets action. And those tensions also fueling activity in the currency scene. The rand gaining some ground this morning at 18 to the dollar. Stateside futures are in the red. Activity on that front will probably be muted as traders return from a public holiday. Sentiment surprisingly upbeat in Asia, though, with stocks on track to close the week in the green.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ndauling Lechela. She's always right on the money. She's kept you updated on all things business, economics, and the markets over the last 2.5 hours.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After league and cup triumphs for Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns, George Maluleka, Lethono Majoro, and George Lebesi embark on a journey to conquer the glamorous world of cosmetics. Join us as we find out how they maneuver through this highly competitive industry. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 21 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right, buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Hey, Paul, what's the rush?
I'm off to SARS. I want to check if I'll be auto-assessed.
No need. If you're auto-assessed, SARS will send you a notice between 7 and 20 July.
So I just wait for the notice?
Exactly. If you get the notice, check it. And if you agree, you're done. Disagree? File using e-filing or the SARS Mobi app. If you don't get the notice, file from 21 July. Make tax matters your priority. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Let's return to a theme that we've covered quite a few times, and it has to do with digital and social media well-being, especially for young people. In a world where platforms like WhatsApp, TikTok, and Instagram are central to youth culture, the line between connection and harm is increasingly being blurred. Mabore Sitole does a bit of work in this area, and her work shines the spotlight on how these digital tools, while powerful, can foster environments of anxiety, exclusion, and cyberbullying. So Mabora has got a new book that's out. It's called Breaking the Cycle of Bullying, and she joins us now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. To what extent do we now understand the balance between the usefulness, connectivity, connection, usefulness of these platforms and how they engender creativity and the youth culture on the one hand, but also the harms that can be associated with these technologies on the other hand?
Hi, Thulasizwe, and thanks for having me, and hi to all the listeners. That was quite a long question.
It's been a while, yeah.
If I may ask you to repeat it, please.
No, I was asking about the balance between, obviously there are benefits that come through from these technologies, connectivity, today's youth being more connected and engendering and promoting creativity and the likes. That's on the one hand, but on the other hand, the harms that you and I frequently talk about. Are we any clearer in our understanding of the balance between those two?
I think the truth is we are not, the balance is not there, especially because we give our children the tools and they sit in their rooms and they go through, they connect. Of course, they, create, as you said, it sparks creativity and stuff. But we are not aware of the harm that happens because obviously we are not part of their conversations. And as a result, as parents or as adults, we are not part of those conversations. As a result, we don't have access to the harm. And somehow, I think what amazes me with the issue of cyberbullying with children is how they keep quiet about it.
Sure.
Because it's almost like a strength to keep quiet. And if they talk about the harm, it's almost like a weakness. But also, it's the fear of losing the digital tool as well. Because if my child continuously tells me that, I'm being bullied or this is what I'm experiencing, parents threaten instead of listening, they take the tool.
Yeah.
So as a result, of course, the balance is not there. We are not aware of the extent of the harm that it's causing.
So I believe you got a glimpse into that world as part of the work you were doing for the book, Breaking the Cycle of Bullying.
Yes.
Tell me about the real stories, just examples of some of the real stories of how cyberbullying manifests.
One story that still stands out for me was of a young girl who was being, followed by a guy on WhatsApp, a young boy, I'd say a guy on WhatsApp. And the conversation started being uncomfortable. And then the young girl said, no, I'm not, comfortable to continue with this conversation. And then they blocked the guy. And the guy went, looked for another number, and, almost started the conversation again. They blocked them. It went on up to 5 numbers.
Sure.
So you can see it moved from harassment, it went into stalking, and the child kept blocking, but not even saying to the parents, this is what I'm experiencing. So that's, one of the examples that really comes to mind in terms of, the harm. Another story I could remember is of, the blasting of private information on a young boy on Instagram, and the child was really traumatized because it started, sparking even hate speech. And unfortunately, this was within a group of friends. So while they bullied them online, they still have access to, they still see each other. And then the bullying continues, even, when they see each other as part of friend group that stays in the same estate. So to a point that the young boy had to, delete their Instagram account and not have, Instagram for an extended period of time. So those are some of the examples that that comes to mind.
So there are a few suggestions that you are putting forward about approaches to parenting in this age of, pervasive social media. Tell me about the approach that says, let's emphasize empowering instead of policing. How does that work? It seems to be counterintuitive to many of us who are parents.
Yes. I think the biggest, for me, as you said, it's more, we need to be more empowering than policing. And we can do that really by creating a safe space, by seeing our children and hearing them, and not, for example, as parents, we really avoid emotional, conversation and clues. So we dismiss them, emotional dismissals like, no man, don't be sensitive. It's only online. It's not real. Things like this. You need to be strong as well. You're a boy. You need to fight back. You need to... that's the first thing. The second thing, we need to listen more attentively. I mean, I've had a personal instance with my child where the child started asking me many times, Mom, do you think my hair is... do you think my hair is okay? And continuously until I thought, what is this about the hair? And then he said, no, there's a friend group online, and I mean there's also intersections of racial and all sorts of the dynamics. That he has hair as a black boy, and it's long, and so there were conversations around his hair. But you can imagine how that starts, if he starts talking about it more often, then there is, it starts affecting them. So it's important that as parents, we listen. And we listen and we do something about it. Sometimes you can't do anything about the people that are bullying your children, but it's about what you can do with your child from an emotional point of view. So it's important. And I also want to take the opportunity to say there is a movie that I'd like to encourage all parents to watch. It's on Netflix. It's called The Adolescent. It really teaches you about, it's almost like a documentary that really talks about how, a child who is unseen, unheard, and bullied online, can degenerate to a more serious because ending up being
it's an important bit of work that series that's on Netflix, and you are absolutely right to allude to it. Let me end off, Mabore, by asking you about are we reaching a point where the conversation needs to move towards the roles and responsibilities of tech companies and media, those behind the platforms? I've seen a few jurisdictions that are taking that direction, that says you will have a responsibility, an enforceable responsibility to minimize harm.
I'm saying, and I think my point on that one is that if the algorithms can track my shopping and and start selling what I'm googling and stuff like that, they can do the same in terms of using AI to detect harassment and in terms of the communications and heighten that. So I think they have a much more responsibility in terms of making sure that the tools are safer. So for me, I think the responsibility lies more with them. Of course, even in communication, this is something that we need to start talking about. I mean, children are not coming out because they feel that if I talk about what happens to me, I'm going to be iced. Everybody will not trust me, and I'll suffer even more. So I'd rather keep quiet. So it's important that we, as parents, as the media, we start telling the children that it is okay to speak up, and it is okay to go through the process and get support. It's actually heroic to do that than for them to feel like, they're going to be even more punished.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for those insights. It's an important conversation. That's Mabora Sithole, who is author, educator, and mental health advocate. Look out for that book, Breaking the Cycle of Bullying. And I like how it puts bullying in the current context that is to do with the digital age and the connections that young people are establishing with one another on various platforms such as WhatsApp, TikTok, and Instagram. The realities of parenting in the digital age.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still some delays on Gauteng highways around some earlier crash scenes. One on the R21, a collision just around the Upsfontein exit, so you've got the roadworks there as well, and it remains fairly heavily backed up, particularly going away from the airport, driving to Pretoria up to Tembisa to that scene, and then airport bound, quite heavy as well. Also a crash on the M1 north at Samrand, having a big impact there on your way to Pretoria, and also having an impact on the southbound, which is jamming from Old Joburg Road, passing Samrand down to about the New Road exit. In fact, there's a crash there at New Road, so you've got a crash going north at Samrand, some onlookers coming south, and then a crash on the south at New Road. It's fairly heavily backed up both directions. Earlier truck fire on the M1 north before Gauteng, finally out of the way. Van Rienen's pass is open. The big backlog has cleared away. Durban's N2 north remains under a bit of pressure this morning, just going up towards the gateway. There's also a collision on the N3 linked to the N2 north, so if you're coming from Pavilion, watch for some slowing traffic. And Cape Town's easy Friday, no doubts about that. If you're on the highways, you'll be nodding in agreement until you get to the elevated freeway and it just jams up into the city centre area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Hey, Paul, what's the rush?
I'm off to SARS. I want to check if I'll be auto-assessed.
No need. If you're auto-assessed, SARS will send you a notice between 7 and 20 July.
So I just wait for the notice?
Exactly. If you get the notice, check it. And if you agree, you're done. Disagree, file using e-filing or the SARS Mobi app. If you don't get the notice, file from 21 July. Make tax matters your priority. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After league and cup triumphs for Kaizer Chiefs, Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns, George Maluleka, Lesonolo Majoro, and George Lebesi embark on a journey to conquer the glamorous world of cosmetics. Join us as we find out how they maneuver through this highly competitive industry. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 21 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
From city streets to dirt trails, introducing the new Isuzu MU-X. Sleek enough for the city, tough enough for the mountains. With advanced all-terrain drive, 360-degree camera, and upgraded suspension to take on any journey. The new Isuzu MU-X, now including the new Onyx XT. It's an SUV with 4x4 capabilities, ready for anything. Experience the new Isuzu MU-X at your nearest dealership today.
Hey there, need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat. Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah. Before I get your WhatsApp voice notes and calls, I do need to mention this. So the winners of the tickets, double tickets that we were giving away yesterday to the Drakensberg Choir show that is taking place, the concert taking place at the Joburg Theatre. So just an announcement for those who called through and won themselves those double tickets. You can collect those tickets at the Joburg Theatre merchandise desk. So you go through and you supply your names, and it would help if you bring some kind of, proof of identity, so that we know exactly who you are and you are the person that is supposed to get the ticket. So the place you go to is the merchandise desk at the Joburg Theatre. The show is tonight, so make your way as early as possible so that you can pick up your tickets and enjoy the show. Let me read a message from Dorothea Herbst, who is asking about the presenter of our economics report. That's Ndauleng Lechela. Ndauleng is her name. Dorothea is asking, I never hear her name clearly. She's brilliant, isn't she? Ndauleng is the name, Dorothea. It's N-T-A-O-L-E-N-G, Ndauleng, if I'm correct in my Setswana Sesotho spelling, remembering that I'm a Swati boy and my spelling may not be 100% all the time. All right, let's take a few of your voice notes. I want to start with this one. Someone reflecting on the conversation we had earlier on with Duma Qubule, who was talking about the national dialogue and just his sentiments and perspectives on whether or not it will lead to any solutions.
Thulasizwe yalezo insolo. Your analyst Duma is neither here nor there. It's very nice to talk when you're outside of government. Make him the Minister of Finance, give him 5 years and let's see what he can do. Talk is cheap. Yalezo insolo.
All right, I hear you, Yalezo. A lot of people have been saying that the realities once you are inside government are completely different, but I don't think it detracts from the value of commentary and analysis. And in fact, those who serve in government a lot of the times take in even uncomfortable criticisms and they take them in and take them on board and perhaps impact on how they navigate these difficulties that you rightly point to. We got a call earlier on about the negativity that comes through on talk radio stations, the various topics, and the listener was saying that, he's done. He can no longer take it. He's not going to be tuning in and listening anymore. And I think someone wants to respond to that.
Hey, your caller about negativity of talk shows. I also do sometimes feel as if talk shows are gaslighting me. But what always works, and I think everybody should apply this from time to time, is just to switch off. You don't have to listen. You switch off, and sometimes you listen to music or you listen to Radio 2000. They're always laughing, and switch off from the toxicity and, that stuff. Thanks, it's Bongi.
Yeah, Bongi, you're absolutely spot on. It's about the balance, right? You plug in and plug out. No one expects you to be listening 24/7. We'd love that. I can tell you that now. We would absolutely love that. But we do understand that you do need to take a mental health break, play some music, sing along, do something else. And in fact, that's part of the reason why we try and laugh as much as we can, even on these shows where everything is really serious. But it is about that. And I always cite Judith Sepuma, you cry, you smile, you dance. We're trying to bring that balance, that we're not always crying all the time. Sometimes you smile and sometimes you dance. Yesterday we had the Drakensberg Boys Choir coming through here, and it was absolutely spectacular. We truly enjoyed it. So those moments when you feel you are overwhelmed, tune out for a moment and then come back in. Plug in the national conversation, always being plugged in.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Into uyenzileni uFloyd. Floyd. Please tell us.
Wenzenu Floyd. I saw the ANC, one of the committees, I think it was the Higher Education Portfolio Committee. Well, at least I saw the chairperson singing that song that was asking, Wenzenu Floyd, what has Floyd done? Almost like, well, it was just banter, really. It wasn't anything serious. But that question that has always been asked about Wenzeni Zuma, someone was asking, those MPs were singing and saying, Wenzeni Floyd, what has Floyd done? And in fact, speaking of Floyd, let me take a voice note that has to do with Floyd Shivambu and the MK party.
Hi, Thulasizwe. Listen, I think what is worrying and what is not being mentioned here, with a lot of, infighting within the political parties in SA, in particular this one with MK and Floyd, at the heart of it is not the policy direction of the country, where the country potentially has to go. They're not fighting over ideologies and ideas to move the country forward. It's all about internal dynamic that has got to do with access to the resources. These are the type of politicians that we've got. So the country has a way, still has a long way to go.
Yeah, no, important point to make. I think I've heard one or two times, in fact, several times, that point has been made, that it's not about the direction and trajectory in which you want to take the country or even issues of ideology, but internal palace politics, right? Palace politics. And my goodness, have we not seen that play itself out in some of the bigger political parties in the country? Thank you for your engagement, and thank you for taking part and for listening over the last 3 hours. Not sounding so great. I think I'm sounding a bit nasal. Let's see what the weekend brings, and hopefully by Monday I'll be feeling much stronger. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. The Talking Point is up next here on SAFM after the news.
In our top stories, Reserve Bank Governor to be sworn in as Stellenbosch University Chancellor, and a petition to government to reduce food prices. Good morning. The South African Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Hanyago will be sworn in today as the 16th Chancellor of Stellenbosch University. University spokesperson Martin Viljoen says Hanyago was unanimously selected as the Chancellor in January this year. He says Hanyago received an honorary doctorate from the university in 2018 and is viewed as one of the finest public policy minds in the country. A petition has been launched calling for major food retailers to drop food prices and for government to intervene to regulate food prices to ease food insecurity. The project, driven by the human rights group United Against Hunger, aims to collect 100,000 signatures through a door-to-door campaign as concerns over food affordability grows. Mark Haywood is the co-founder of United Against Hunger.
The figures tell us that about 20 million